Sisi kama walimu tumesema ya kwamba no promotion, no JSS, no confirmation, no
Education CS Julius Migambo has, however, continued to plead with KUPPET teachers to call off their strike, saying that the government is doing everything within its power to address their demands.
And negotiating with them, you know, these issues are administrative in nature. In fact, it is not in the CBA. What was in the CBA was the payment. That has been done. But these are legitimate issues that they have and which the government is responding to. All that we are asking is that as we respond to them, they should go back to class and continue teaching as we resolve those administrative issues. It's not, we've shown the goodwill that we are concerned about their plight and we want to do the right thing by them.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka says he is officially the new opposition leader since ODM leader Raila Odinga is now a candidate of the African Union Commission chairmanship. Kalonzo says he's ready to continue holding the government accountable, stressing that there is no vacuum following Odinga's departure from politics.
With the majority of our people who expect that this administration will be kept on its feet. In fact, they will see opposition that they have never seen before. I can tell you that. And so it will be a team.
His statement has been emphasized or marked up by DAPK leader Eugene Wamalwa and Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni.
But in Azimio, there will be no vacuum. We are several parties, constant parties of Azimio. The next ranking member of the leadership of our coalition is the Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, who was the 10th Vice President of the Republic of Kenya. So as we stand before the nation, it's a case of the first amongst equals.
Those who want the poor of the poorest access education in this country without being hassled, being taken to KICC for unnecessary explanations, should join us in Operation Okoh, Kenya, under the leadership of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Ieleweke.
The National Treasury will no longer grant tax holidays or any tax exemptions to big corporates as it whims. A proposed law gives MPs the final say on who benefits from tax waivers granted by the government. In the new dispensation, the Treasury CS will be required to publish names of companies that have been granted tax waivers. The Tax Procedures Amendment Bill 2024 seeks to provide that the names would be published every 4 months. Treasury in the notice would be required to reveal the names of the taxpayers and the amount of taxes abandoned or waived. MPs, should the law be enacted, would then consider and make a decision on the notice within 21 days of receipt. And finally, the civil organization Network in Kisumu has called on elected leaders to respect the Constitution. Speaking at a press conference during Katiba Day yesterday, that is, they also urged politicians in the judiciary to play their roles in government.
To the President of the Republic of Kenya, we demand that you obey and respect the Constitution. To the legislator, we demand that you play your role of representing the people and oversighting the executive. To the judiciary, we ask that you continue standing firm and defend the rule of law.
Yes, we demand.
To the governors, we demand that you deploy the meager resources in your counties to improve service delivery to the residents of your counties.
That's the news wire. I'm La Ubaga.
.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Revenge is for children. It's for kids. When you grow up, you realize the best revenge you can take on somebody is to ignore them.
Now, I'm just new in politics. It is not everybody's cup of tea. That's why some people come in one term and that's it for them.
Political parties in this country do not have ideologies, whether luring or otherwise.
And that is the effect of corruption.
Any time an offense occurs anywhere in the country, it is the job of the Inspector General to look into it. Whether it's corruption, whether it's murder, whether it's petty, that is his job.
If we have chosen to be a corrupt nation, then we produce corrupt leaders. Everything then becomes chaotic that you cannot be able to change a nation.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, in the middle of the week, and what could possibly be happening on our streets today? Let's take a quick look at that and into the capital. We're likely to see still some quite heavy traffic because of the fact that people are still moving up and about around the city. We're already seeing some movement coming off the Thika Superhighway and some of that in that whole Westlands area. Coming in from Wangari Maathai and then heading through into the CBD this morning. Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad as you then get into it. And we're also seeing that as we come off the Eastern Bypass, the movement is starting. All right, we're getting into Wednesday morning proper. Let's see what happens as we do with traffic. And we'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Indeed it is. It's 10 minutes after 6 o'clock and we are already on the 28th of August. August has been that month and it's coming to an end. It will end whether you like it or not. Things were revealed, things were unleashed yesterday and we're still alive. Let me tell you, a guy who's still alive and it's Wednesday, or so he tells us. Ken Mijungu, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you?
You didn't expect me to be alive?
No, I mean, and you're awake. And
awake.
As in you're blinking and there's life behind your eyes.
Yes. When you remember there's a time Baba was in Ukambani Yes, and then he was talking about the voters. Then he said that if women promise you they will give you votes.
He premised this with
so you promised me
voter.
that I promised you to come, and I'm here.
And I told everybody that you were coming.
I had to come.
It is good to keep promises. Again.
Yes.
So I raise you that, and then City is also here. City, good morning.
Good morning, Andu.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
A promise-keeping man is across from you.
Yes, that is Brother Ken.
Someone told me that you used to play rugby.
Bas, here we go.
You used to play rugby.
Yes.
Moon Awidi.
Yes.
You know Moon? He came to my inbox yesterday and said, "Hi, say hi to City. We used to play rugby." You used to play rugby, actually.
You know, that's the fourth time you asked me that.
The third time.
Do tell, where did you used to play this rugby? When the school you went to used to be called what? The Lord's something supper. What?
By the way, I will not be enticed. You are not going to this particular snake. It's not coming out of the rabbit hole.
No, seriously, what did they used to call your school? Please now.
We are not.
City, I beg now.
You go beg as much as you like.
I can't remember.
That's
honestly.
And somehow your faulty memory is my problem.
Please remind me what your school was called.
It has just become his advantage this morning.
I know, because
But
he's
you can't
enjoying
remember. Yes.
he's enjoying this situation where I'm begging him for something and he's feeling sweet. Hey, sweetie.
It's really good.
You like it?
That's nice.
I'll remember. Somebody will tell me.
Someone will just text you right now.
Yeah, and tell me what it used to be called. Your old school had a really hoity-toity name before it was called what it is today.
Look at his face.
So he's looking at me.
He's not gonna
I mean, since you know it was a hoity-toity name, why don't you rejig your hoity-toity brain to figure it out?
I really can't
yes,
remember.
you just-
The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the Lord of the Manor.
Something. I can't remember. In case both of you wanted to know, I am fine. Yeah.
Oh, good morning.
Yeah. Just, I have to put it out there again. I'm all right. I'm doing okay. I woke up. Everything is okay. We're kicking.
Yes.
Let me tell you guys what we'll be talking about this morning, shall I?
Mm-hmm.
It is Wednesday and quite a number of conversations still happening. And by the way, Ednah is here. Even Avin is here, and Lydia is here. People just somewhere here inside. Everybody is here this morning as we're getting into it. All right, so we'll have a conversation around the Constitution and impeachment. So we know that there was an impeachment that happened last week, and it went back to the courts. Court said, okay, stay of impeachment, come back to work until we hear the case come September. Now, the lawyer or the legal representation for the County Assembly of Meru, who is also an advocate, is Ndegwa Jiro. He'll be here with us at 7. And we'll be looking into, all right, what the Constitution says, or rather impeachment versus what the Constitution says. So that'll be a conversation that we will have at 7 a.m. 2 political analysts and government analysts will be with us at 8 o'clock. Dismas Okoh and Professor Gitile Naituli will be with us at 7, or rather at 8. And we'll be looking at Raila Odinga's AUC candidature. Implications for Kenya and Africa. Are we looking at United Africa as a result of whomever is in that position? But now that he was revealed and set out to go forth and conquer, what exactly does that mean? So those are conversations that we'll be having today, and then we'll continue those through the morning. Thank you for being here. We're going to take a break at this point and see what the weather's going to look like. Not too chilly today. Well, actually, no, that's not true. It's quite chilly today, but hey, let's see what it looks like in terms of numbers, and then we'll come back and say hello to you and kick it off. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is one of the hottest show that we can ever miss in the morning, and it's a show that really gives a real situation in the Situation Room.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much. Nduthai, nice meeting you. Even beautiful in person more than in photos.
Say that again.
Character is like pregnancy. You cannot hide it. People hiding here and there, but after 2-3 months, 5 months, now you realize,
So that is why the attitude that you were showing us, you're pregnant.
It's like what my grandmother would say. You cannot pickpocket a naked man. How's that? It's communal, isn't it?
No comment.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
The weather with Spice FM.
We're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, likely to see highs of 26 and coming down to lows of 15, and looking into a mostly clear Nakuru at 14, highs of 24 and lows of 13. We'll see lows of 15 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri, going to highs of 23, and at 15 it's cloudy in Eldoret with highs of 24 and lows of 12. Mombasa this morning, cloudy at 23 with highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 23. It's 19 and clear in Kisumu with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 29. In a mostly clear Kakamega, going to highs of 29. All right, Kampala, cloudy at 20 with highs of 28, and Dar es Salaam cloudy at 24, going to highs of 29. Johannesburg is cloudy at 14, highs of 25 and lows of 6, while it's partly sunny already at 25 in Mogadishu. We'll see highs of 29, 14 and cloudy in Addis Ababa with highs of 20. And Lagos is cloudy at 24 with highs of 29, while it's clear at 21 in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 34. 28 and sunny Beijing in the afternoon Wednesday. It's 15 and cloudy in Paris with highs of 31, and London is cloudy at 16 with highs of 27. We'll round things out to New York, where Tuesday night is clear at 24. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 29 and lows of 25.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning to everybody who's already in the room. Yeah, I know, Lord of the Rings High School. I just couldn't. I don't know. But yeah, City is still playing hard to get. But we'll get him today. We'll get him. He'll tell us by fire, by force. Abi? Good morning, team. How can your story be written incorrectly if you're the one writing it? This is a good question. That's what they normally say. Tell your story first before somebody else has an opportunity to. Don Sabua says, when the bush is on fire, the chameleon has to abandon the walking style of the ancestors. There is an order to pull down all fake project banners. Is there? There's an order to pull down all fake
banners?
project.
The ones that have been...
The one where you say architect.
Oh, so how do you know they're fake projects?
How do you know if they're fake banners or fake projects? How do you know?
I think in regard to what has been happening in the last week, probably, where there's been a lot of exposure about the projects that the president, when he was deputy, or president started, and then there are ghost projects. Probably that's what they mean. Yeah, because there was a speculation again that they were removed from Twitter, the ones that were tweeted. So probably they've gone to the ground.
Somebody's nervous, that's for sure. Good morning from Kikuyu, says Deno Mwanza. Good morning, Spice. Tuned in from Houston, Texas. Feels great to be here. Well, thank you for being here. We'll definitely continue this conversation. Evans Morgan says good morning from Kenya, or rather, good morning, Kenya. Good morning, Team Spice. CT, is it Lord Delamere? See, everybody's asking.
He's not speaking.
No, I am speaking. You met Lord Delamere?
So somebody's asking, is the school called Lord Delamere? Not me.
Mm-hmm. Someone's asking the question.
Okay. It's a school called Lord Delamere.
Okay. It's possible.
Today is Wednesday, not Thursday. I know. Did I say it's Thursday?
No, you said Wednesday.
So what's the problem? Today is Wednesday. I said Wednesday.
You even said it's the 28th.
Thank you. I was right on all counts. Oh, it's Ednah who said it was Thursday. Okay, so Ednah, we see you. But here, even a dog in a Buddhist temple can recite scriptures after 3 years.
Havana.
No?
Nope.
Bernardo Kello says, good morning. Salimia Ednah Apo Nyuma. Ednah Umisalimia. Ednah has waved. She's even giving you a heart sign. Yesterday, Baba Raila entered the house in the hill officially. Good moving. Good morning. Bernard, we see you. Akiki says he loves Ndu. Where? Margaret Wanjohi says, good morning, all Team Spice Situation Room locked in from Houston. Feels great to be here. Good morning from Kikuyu. Good morning, people. Okay, yes. Eric Latiff is on leave, actual leave, as in he's doing a walkabout. He will be back and everything is going to be okay. Sawa. Should I say it again?
Mm-hmm.
Eric Latiff is on leave and everything is okay. Okay, Saru says, good morning. I'm in a different world. Are we on Wednesday or Thursday? Look, you can be wherever you want. You want to be living in the middle of February? It's really up to you. Okay? Good morning, my peeps, everybody. George Okoh, we see you. Good morning. Great for you to be here. Okay, I see where it's all coming from. Don't worry, it is actually Wednesday. Soon things will be revealed and why Ednah is behaving the way she's behaving. Kitengela is sending all the cold all over the world. Yeah, it actually is still pretty chilly. Oh, Eric Latiff is actually online where he is, and he says, good morning, people, from a cold summer's evening in Seattle, Washington. Salamu kwa wengi from many Kenyans here. Good to have you on and in the room, Eric. Good morning to you. Yes. So we're getting into it this morning. We are still in
the People's Republic of Algeria.
Exactly.
Yes, Algeria.
Algeria.
Oh, it's all now. Eh?
Yeah.
When it's Algeria, it's Algeria.
Yeah.
When it's French, it's all. Algeria.
Algeria.
All right. A secret of two is soon a secret of nobody.
Very good. It is true. The minute you open your mouth and say, CT, I'm telling you this in the utmost confidence, it's over. It's like an egg that has been cracked and it's out already. You cannot put the egg back into the shell. You let out a secret, it's done. Abi?
Well, yes, usually that's how it works. You swear your 10 best friends to this secrecy, and they in turn will look for their 10 best friends and swear them to that same secrecy. So you'll have something like around 100 people who've been sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, I come and tell you, wallahi,
Haki.
My friend,
do not. Don't say, no, I will not.
Please don't tell anyone.
So don't look for them, just look for your 10 best friends.
Yeah, once it's cracked, it's done.
Done. I often wonder, the proverb of milk, once it's poured out, cannot be I don't know why they didn't make that proverb with an egg, because once you crack it, that's it.
Once you crack an egg, it's done. You know, if the milk spills on the table, you can
do something about
move some of it and pour it into a cup, But an egg, cracked it,
done.
If you don't use it, it's going to spoil.
It's done.
It's done.
Done.
The Algerians are onto something.
They are onto something, aren't they?
Let's look at the headlines, shall we?
Yes.
On the front page of the Standard, Raila unleashed. This headline tickled me pink when I saw it, because I was like, okay, you're making it seem as though it's, when we hear unleashed, the word that usually precedes unleashed is terror. So I'm not saying anything beyond that. I'm just going to read the subhead. Bitter political rivals unite with the world in the presence of 3 EAC state presidents and representatives to crown Raila Odinga as a bold, visionary and steadfast Pan-Africanist whose professional and technocratic credentials make him the ideal candidate for the African Union Commission chair position, kicking off campaigns proper. So it was fanfare. It was, all that Ken yesterday said it was going to be, because, pomp and circumstance was flying everybody. We had the red carpet rolled out. Even former President Olusegun Obasanjo was there. They tried to give him something to stand on. He said, no, I'm not as short as you imagine. Raila's big day leaders lionize former Kenya Premier as the most qualified for the AU top post. People were saying things regarding Gachagua. Imagine. Do you know what he said? He said, today we are going to unveil the transformation of Raila Odinga from a national leader to an African statesman. So today, yesterday he was not, but today, voila.
Who wrote that speech?
I don't know, but the words fell from his mouth. And for us in leadership, we have learned great lessons of resilience, endurance, and perseverance. Rigathi Gachagua. Salva Kiir said, and he's the South Sudan president.
What did you call him?
Salva Kiir.
Oh, I had Salva Kiir.
No. Salva Kiir said, as chairman of EAC, Ken, you need to wash your ears. I strongly appeal to the region to rally behind Raila. Let us talk to our friends across the continent. He is the one to lead us in that big battle for prosperity and is the candidate who is fit for the job. Yoweri Museveni, who's the Ugandan president, said, before I came to Nairobi, there was a young man from Djibouti who came to say he was their candidate. Of course, I greeted him warmly, but I told him I was coming to support Raila because he's the candidate fit for the job. Okay. And And finally, Samia Suluhu, who is the president of Tanzania, said, "My government fully endorses Raila Odinga's candidacy for the chairman of the AU Commission. He is a Pan-Africanist leader, well acquainted with the development concerns of our continent." So these are just some of the heads, speaking at some of the headlines around the State House unveiling. What is the political significance? Observers say yesterday's launch of AU chair's candidacy bid was a symbolic Ruto-Raila political marriage. So yesterday they said, I do you, I do you, I do, you may kiss the bride. Essentially is what happened yesterday, what we are being told.
No, that's not what happened.
No?
Nope.
So this is like Rurashio that happened yesterday.
You know, I can never tell the difference.
Neither can I don't know.
There's another one called Gurario.
Huh?
There's another one called Rurashio.
The other one, Koito.
Yes, that is now for the rift to the other side. I have a relative who called it Gurashio.
Just combine everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Comes to Rurashio.
And so you're supposed to understand what he means. But these are significant events. Political marriages in this country, the moment there's a marriage, you sit up and wait for the divorce.
Let me tell you. You know, you see, there's those things in divorce papers where they say unreconcilable, whatever differences. Wait, if this bid doesn't go through,
how is it reconcilable, by the way? Because all these differences, you only look at the ping pong games that are played by a politician. At one point, you're in the Rainbow Coalition, then you're in NARC, then you're in God knows what else, and then you left, then you came back. Dizzying. I mean,
it's like people who break up but never really break up.
They never actually do. They just disagree. Please continue.
As Raila shifts focus to the African stage, President Ruto today kickstarts a push to inherit his political base, and already whispers in political corridors hint at a possible alliance between ODM and UDA parties ahead of the 2027 general election. Okay. Despite court orders, teachers vow strike is still on. We're going into day 3 of the Kupet strike. Deaths, suffering as sanctions wreak havoc in Burundi. Things are not looking too rosy there. What do you have on the Nation, Ken?
Nation, as expected, is the same headline across the board. However, everyone has a little different of a feel. So the Nation, the headline is Raila's show of power. I think this is about the ability for him to unite most of East Africa, or if not all of East Africa, and most of the region in Nairobi at State House. In fact, this was the first meeting that we had so many heads of states and heads of government, presidents, prime ministers at State House. So the Ruto administration yesterday asserted its influence by rallying the support of East Africa community as it unveiled Raila Odinga's candidacy for chairperson of the Africa Union Commission. Now, what I like about this headline, because it cuts across, is actually the opinion page, the cartoon page, both papers. And I think the Standard is more explicit. So these are racetrack with the Africa Union Commission chairperson right at the patch. And Ruto says, good luck, but kwa akili ni kama nasema good riddance. That is a cartoon. If you look at the Nation, the cartoon also on the opinion page is Baba AUC candidature unveiling. So all the heads of states are right behind Baba, and Ruto is about to close the curtain, you know. It's the same thing. So most of it is about, I think, the opinion shapers here thinking or just deducing that Raila's time is up in the local political scene. So Nation captures that very well. Promise of pay hike or pay rise, strike halted. The Employment and Labor Relations Court has suspended the strike by the Kenya Union of Post-Primary School Teachers, who, as you mentioned, are in day 3 of their strike. And families agony over missing kin as police defy courts. That story about Aslam Longthorn is also given a lot of prominence in the Nation. After briefcase ceasefire, Ruto allies take on Gachagua. Obviously, it was bound to happen. You know, they just said, you know, give us a little bit of time. We settle what's happening on the other side. Once we are done, we're coming for you. So Ruto's allies now take on Gachagua, and it was beautiful yesterday to see the accolades that he gave Raila. You know, and then you know the final thing they did is to call Pastor Dorcas Gachagua to pray for Raila Odinga and commit the son of the soil as it takes on to the skies. City, I'm done. Today his eyes, man.
I'm telling you.
Why are you looking at us like that?
Well, It's like this, huh?
Well, it's like this.
I don't understand one thing.
Mm.
The AU Commission chair is actually the CEO of the Secretariat.
Yes.
I'm wondering, what is the big fuss about being the CEO of the African Union?
And the fifth in the pecking order.
Mm.
The fifth. The fifth. After the president, the summit of the presidents, then the council of ministers, that's the foreign affairs ministers. Then there is the council of chief justices, I think. Then there is another council there. Then that's when you get to the
AUC chair.
AUC chair, yes, the fifth.
I'm wondering what this fuss is all about. Why? I mean, when people who ordinarily, thank you so much, have no reason to agree, suddenly all come together and they all seem to be in agreement, and they're all singing the same song.
But this is the thing that you talked about before, that it doesn't really take a blink of an eye for people to come together over a thing. It would be seen that the CEO of the commission is the one then who is tasked with the responsibility of going about for this unification scenario for Africa. That is the person who has that would go from country to country, or at least call presidents and nations to come together when it comes to the original idea behind the OAU, remember? It would be that it is that office that is tasked with that agenda, and that's why it would be so important.
All right. Parliament also has a secretariat.
I know where you're going, CT.
Yes.
But for now, so you just tell us the headlines on the Star.
Okay. Top right-hand corner in teal green.
Ask Ken if he knows what teal green is first.
It's this color here.
It's not green, like the dollars.
No, it's still green.
Not like the Benjamins, Ken.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Awareness campaign. Soaring teen pregnancies in Nyeri spark an outcry. Okay? This is a story on page 3. Auditor explains why Rivertex is on its knees. State-owned textile firm Rivertex, East African Limited, is facing imminent collapse. I thought it had collapsed. Amid revelations of massive losses amounting to more than 3 billion Kenyan shillings. I mean, in this country, is there anything that doesn't cost $1 billion plus?
No.
All right. MPs to approve tax relief and trim treasury powers. Really? The National Treasury will no longer grant tax holidays or tax exemptions to big corporates at its whims. Really?
Okay.
A proposed law gives MPs the final say as who gets benefits from tax waivers granted by the government. So this is funny. These guys are lawmakers, so they're just making the laws to give themselves more power. Is that what they're doing?
Yes.
Okay. It's fine. Chilly weather to continue in many areas forecast.
Yeah.
Well, this chilly weather. Blow, blow, thou cold wind. Thou art cold, but not as cold as man's ingratitude. Anyway, bang in the middle of the paper. Baba for Addis. Ababa. XPM also leveraging on his old networks. Ruto game plan to propel Raila's AU campaigns. Secretaries made up of top diplomats will spearhead across Africa push. Then there's a picture of all these heads of states. Yes, in this region, but then Obasanjo is not quite from this region. The region is called Africa, and the specific region is called Nigeria. Right, that is what we have in the Star.
Okay, let's take a quick look at traffic, and we'll come back and look at those stories in depth. Getting a few minutes after 6:30, and now some of the stories, of course, in detail. All right, back after this.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Nairobi, get ready. The Cradle Study Abroad World Fair is coming to you. Meet top international universities, apply on the spot and secure partial scholarships. Get student visa and accommodation assistance all in one place. The Cradle World Fair will be held on Saturday, 31st August from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Gallant Mall, Parklands, Nairobi. This is an invite-only event. Make sure to register by visiting www.cradle.com or call 0799 000 444.
You know that feeling where there's like a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to. But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
Okay, what's happening on the streets where you are this morning and coming into the CBD? Looks like it might just get a little busier in a short time, and that's coming off of the Thika Superhighway. We're only seeing traffic right around Survey now as we get towards Wangari Maathai Way. And then coming in from Westlands looks good. Gong Road is not looking too bad either. Let's take a quick look at Jogo Road. It's an absolute mess already. Coming past the Makadara train station and heading out towards Landis. Landis then going through towards Haile Selassie and the Kamkunji roundabout. Totally different story. In and outbound traffic is an absolute mess, and it will continue for a little bit longer. So if you're in that area, you might want to think about avoiding it and using something else. Manyanja Road then leading towards Jogo Road is also busy, and we're seeing some of that movement on the Eastern Bypass likely to pack up as we get towards Mbakasi and then through towards North Airport Road. Let's see what Wednesday has in store. We shall talk. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, there's a story that is, despite court orders, teachers vow that strike is on. That's okay. And of course, all of this Raila Odinga business about the AU chairmanship bid, I know we'll be having that conversation around this morning. But let's look at exactly what teachers are still telling us. There's supposed to have been some more money that was released from Treasury yesterday to take care of teacher salaries between July and August. But that doesn't have anything to do with what Kuppet is saying in terms of the strike. It's important that we do this and look at some of the details. A flurry of meetings and a court order marked the government's last-ditch efforts to end the teacher strike. So they went to court and they said, stop this thing, go back to work, and then we will talk later. Don't come and be threatening us any day. Teacher said, who? Not me. The Standard has established that the teacher's employer will issue show cause letters to those who disobey a court order. Justice James Rika granted a temporary injunction restraining the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, Kuppet, and its members from withdrawing their labour. So the government went to court and said, tell these guys to stop misbehaving. Now, pending hearing and determination of the application inter parte, an order of temporary injunction is granted to the petitioner, restraining the respondent, its officials, members, employees, and agents or other persons acting on its behalf from withdrawing labor or commencing, engaging in, participating or continuing to participate in the intended industrial action set to commence on the 24th of August. So it's backdated a couple of days, right? The decision now requires secondary school teachers to return to their classrooms for the new term beginning Wednesday. It actually began Monday, but okay. So they're saying essentially from yesterday, go back to work tomorrow, which is today. The strike, which has focused on the plight of junior secondary school teachers, is being led by Kuppet. On Tuesday, Kuppet officials opted to avoid media engagements amid reports that they were snubbed by the teacher's employer on Monday. Now, the TSC did not attend the meeting convened by the Ministry of Labour and Kuppet. We've also learned that Monday evening, there was a meeting between Labour CS Alfred Mutua and Kuppet officials as part of an elaborate plan to end the strike, which has so far paralysed learning for 2 days. However, insiders say that the TSC failed to attend because there were no new details to present, and the union seemed unwilling to end the strike. So court has stepped into this and they've said, go back to the classroom. Kuppet said, it can never be us. TSC said, now, court has said you go back to class. If you don't go back to class, we'll start issuing show cause letters. Do you think this is the way to deal with this matter?
No.
Because you're going to aggravate people even more. Yeah. And the people aggravated are going to stand fast to their position. And there is nothing short of dragging them, kicking and screaming back into class that will make them go.
What I find disturbing about this is how we are clearly displaying a growing culture of a complete disregard to the law. The court pronounces itself and they are ignored resoundingly. But you see, the example was set by the executive in the Uhuru era.
Yep.
And so it's follow the leader, follow the leader. This one, people are definitely, I mean, this trend is not a good one.
Oh, people say, what? Court order, huh?
Yeah.
Spell court order, leave us alone, we're not going to class.
Now, to understand it, anytime you're at a traffic light and there are no policemen and it's red, some people just drive through. It's like it's a suggestion. The traffic lights are a suggestion. They're
It's
not,
road furniture.
You're not meant to stop.
Yeah.
This is how it begins. You see, when you have a situation where you have an entire population of people who always look for ways and means of disregarding the law, that is how, you know how this is spelled? Anarchy.
Spelled anarchy and not with a K.
No.
But what would you say about the facts?
Yes.
Or the fact that CBAs are also registered by courts?
Yes, they are.
When you enter into a CBA between the employer and the employee, you go to court and it's registered.
Which means it's binding.
It's binding. So why would your employer potentially go back to court to vitiate
over something that they
CBA?
Yeah.
So they're using a technicality to vitiate something that is legal. So first we enter into a CBA that should lapse in 4 years.
Yes.
You haven't performed your side. Suddenly I go on strike, which is guaranteed by the Constitution, is protected by the Constitution. Then you decide now that you want to spook me because you're going to court. I'm going to go to court and get an order against me and you or against myself because we agreed on this.
Yes,
we registered it in court. So
the reason why we're here in the first place is because you didn't obey the order that was given.
You disobeyed an order. Now you're telling me to obey an order. That's essentially why they don't listen to those orders. Yes, they don't spell them right.
Which also, well, it begs the question then, the judge who issued this particular order, is there a particular reason that this judge gave for giving this order?
But that's the thing about the law. It's very interesting, isn't it? That you can actually go to court, you can get a stay of order, you can get an injunction, it is your right. You can actually go apply, get it. In almost instantly.
And because it's ex parte,
Yeah,
then they tell you you both come to court in the next 2 weeks.
But in the meantime,
there's an order.
Yeah.
As we await the resolution of this
If
matter.
you decide to come to my house and you want to take my things, I can actually rush to court and say, put a stay on that thing, and I will be granted.
Still of execution.
I'll be granted. So it's like they're giving them out like popcorn at the state fair. Have.
Is that easy?
Yeah, it would appear so.
But it's their right also to obtain their orders because what they're saying, it's a stay until we...
It's been determined.
This matter is resolved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Ken, tell us a story.
My interest is on a story on page 2 of the Star. President Ruto, straight from launching Raila, and what did the Star say? Oh, unleashing. What is it? Standard? Unleashing Raila Odinga. He intends to begin his 3-day tour, the Nyanza region. He begins from my county, Migori.
Of course.
Then he'll pass through Gladys Wanga, Homa Bay, Wanga's Homa Bay. Then he'll head to Siaya, James Orengo. Then come to Professor Anyang' Nyong'o on Sunday when he concludes this, or on Saturday. If he begins today, 4 days, that's Saturday, right?
Yes.
That's Saturday. So ahead of that, all members of parliament and a few government officials who are still remaining met Raymond Omolo, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, and they decided on projects. PS, sorry. And they decided on projects that they want implemented. But something has caught my attention. One of the things they said is out of the 4 counties, they're asking the president to employ 2,800 teachers. Out of everything they want,
fresh,
they want the government to hire at least 2,800 teachers to bridge the teachers gap in the 4 counties of Migori, Homa Bay, Kisumu, and Siaya. That is what has interested me. So there is space to hire teachers, and teachers are outside here asking the government. So the only reason the 2,800 are going to be hired is because the president is going to that region. Otherwise, these teachers will have never been hired because it's a demand on the table.
You know how archaic this thing is? I remember there was a time during President Moi's era when roads, by their very nature, were non-existent. And the only thing you hoped and prayed that the president would visit your area, because if he did, that road would be repaired. Okay? Surely, what is this? Does the president walk around with jobs for teachers in his bag or in the boot of the vehicle he's traveling
to dish them out?
Yes.
Yeah, so that whenever you see him, he can just remove something.
Or when you ask for it, he dishes, or he has them compartmentalized. Yeah. So when he's going to Nyanza, he's walking with a briefcase full of jobs for Nyanza people.
It would appear.
I mean, surely.
It shouldn't be like that, but it could be possible. Remember when someone said that there's a cabinet secretary, former cabinet secretary education, who was working with letters, admission letters for teachers.
Yes.
So remember they met Raymond Omolo, the PS, and then what they did is asked for these jobs. So essentially, these members of parliament could be given these jobs, so they go back to their constituencies to dish them out for their own political mileage.
Ken, let me tell you something. There's something very wrong with this entire scenario. Once upon a time, in the days before this constitution, the 2010 constitution, ministers who are powerful enough could get their people meaning the people from their backyard, because then MPs were ministers, by the lorry load to be employed, whether it was in a primary school, training college, whether it was in the water department, whether it was in the police, in the army, literally the lorry load of people. Now, the question I want to ask is this. The problem of scarcity of teachers is a national problem. It is not a Nyanza problem.
Yeah.
So now, if the Nyanza people get these 2,800, in fact, I'm wondering, why 2,800? Why don't you just make it rounded up to 3,000? Okay, the next time the president is visiting Ukambani.
Yeah.
So they'll come with their list of 2,400.
Yes,
exactly.
You gave Nyanza 2,800.
Yes. And then by the time he's now visiting
Western, he's back to Western.
Western will want 4,000.
Yes.
Now,
yeah.
This is the problem with taking a national issue, which you should be sorting out anyway, and using it as bait.
It's politicizing it.
It is politicizing it, and it's using it as bait for people so that they will be forever beholden to you. It is a problem. It is wrong. It actually teeters on the edge of criminality. It is wrong because it is a national issue. There are people who've gone to school across the country. They have trained to be teachers. Not just that, but there is a deficit at schools today. Teachers who need to be hired around the country. But then you take it and you say, let me put it in my bag, and wherever I go, I can give here, give here, give here.
So what you're saying is that areas that the president doesn't visit.
What happens to them?
What happens to them?
Like Central Kenya. What happens to the teachers who are waiting to be employed? Anyway, let me conclude with what he'll be doing. So first day, he's in Homa Bay. He will launch the Kegonga Cluster Water Project. No, this is Migori.
Oi.
Kegonga, Lower Kuja Irrigation Project. Inspect the construction of Ngere Mapera Road. That's the first day. On Thursday, he'll be in Oyugis, where he'll do a water project in Oyugis. Inspect Oyugis Fish Market.
So it exists.
Inspect.
Okay.
Then he will go later to launch Rusinga Ring Road. He will attend a Thanksgiving ceremony for the National Treasurer, Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi. Okay. On Friday, he will be in Siaya County. Yeah, Mbadi comes from Homa Bay, where he will commission the Mageta Island Solar Project in Bondo. That's in Raila's home. He will then proceed to Alego Songa, where he will launch the Siaya Economic Stimulus Program Market. While in Siaya, the head of state will also launch the Siaya Rice Mill Project. Later in the day, he will attend the Thanksgiving of Energy CS Opio Wandai's homecoming.
He left home at some point, did he?
He left home, so now he's coming home. When he was MP,
I am tired of reading.
Came home, he's coming home.
You know something?
I don't understand.
This is, there are those who would argue this is the reality of our politics, but it is absolutely retrogressive, because you're telling us that there is no plan, that we do not plan in advance for things that benefit the entire country, and that it requires the president to visit your area.
To launch a solar project, a fish market, a water irrigation project, and come to a homecoming party.
We were told that those are Kabonyo. You remember that project?
Yes, when he went to Homa Bay first. Yes.
There are so many projects that are launched and with huge promises. And what remains is the promises that were made, and you don't quite see how those things. The
self-serving.
It's not even that. These people who purportedly were elected to be leaders, why are they dragging us back? Why are they taking us to an era where you couldn't plan and be certain that the things that are planned would happen? We have county governments that cannot account fully for the monies that they get every single year, even if there's a deficit. The development that is supposed to be wrought within the counties, one hears of stories of projects, same scenario, stalled projects which were supposed to have. The money is always not there. And with the money, the projects which were supposed to be there are also not there.
How much did they say they spent on fuel for the presidency and the deputy president?
Local travel?
Yeah.
Presidency was 12 billion. International was about 4 or 6 billion. Yes.
You tell me.
Local travel to be jumping up and down. 12 billion.
Yes.
Okay.
What's all this really?
How much is Kuppet saying that you should pay them so that they can just teach, for goodness sake?
Almost.
Teachers are earning. Teachers are earning, the few teachers that are available in the country, the highest a teacher earns in this country is 162,000 shillings. That is at the top level, 162,000. That money that you spend on field jumping about, doing homecoming, how much money is going to be spent on those 2 homecomings this weekend?
These 4 days.
How much money is going to be spent going up and down? Homecoming what? Homecoming what?
Just think.
What are we doing?
The mass. How many people do you think are going to involve this? There are many people.
Many people.
And all of them will require an out of station, either this and that and the other. The team that goes ahead to prepare.
No.
So this we have money for.
Yes, that's the thing. And we're sliding back very fast into the dark ages, I'm telling you, because that is what it is. You don't have money to do the very basic things to sort out your citizenry.
Siti, my question is this. The president's budget had already been passed based on the intended activities and the incidental activities. When this budget was being passed, we never knew this thing was going to happen. Raila was going to cross over, Badi and the rest were going to be appointed. So it means it was not in the budget. So somehow they had to find these hundreds of millions of shillings from that budget to facilitate this.
But you can't find money to send children to school. You can't find money, to pay the teachers who are going to teach those children.
And to pay capitation.
Yeah, what are we talking about? That's why if you are not feeding your people, educating them, treating them when they get sick, and putting up the proper infrastructure,
but you have money for travel,
that puts up a conducive environment for business to flourish in this country. If you're not doing those things, you have no business being in government. But you have money to jump up and down, saying that you're doing homecoming and that you're going to attend the Thanksgiving service and you're going to launch the launchables. For goodness sake. My head is aching. Siti, please.
Your head is aching.
Sorry.
You know, the thing that I find strange is how it is that we... Remember what I told you yesterday about vacuum activity? Somebody is... Essentially, it's best described by the analogy of a dog chasing its tail. It's like he sees it wagging and then he starts chasing it and starts wondering, why is it that this thing is moving at the same pace as I am? With all the problems we have, surely...
The reason why we will never progress in this manner is not for lack of resources, it's not for lack of expertise, it's not for lack of the proper environment, it's just a mindset. That is why we'll continue being at the tail end of things. And it's not just here, by the way. Very many places where it's just like this, if not worse.
Anyway, life is like that. Life is definitely like that. I'm looking at something that we can talk about.
Can I give you another story while you look?
Please go ahead.
Teachers okay, lost 15 billion shillings to rogue SACCO officials. You like that?
Billion.
Billion, please. Spell billion. Teachers lost 15 billion shillings in fraudulent schemes, but the SACCO bosses blamed for the looting are free because a probe by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has stalled for how many? 3 years. Why? the fraud plunged the once giant Metropolitan National SACCO into financial distress when most members withdrew. The SACCO, which had over 100,000 members, now has only 10,000. An audit by the State Department for Cooperatives and the SACCO Societies and Regulatory Authority exposed how senior officials of the SACCO engaged in conflict of interest, cooked financial books, and made fraudulent withdrawals, citing phony investments. To cover up for the theft, the SACCO officials hoodwinked investors with dividends paid through bank loans to conceal the fact that the financial institution was in the red. After the scandal was exposed, Commissioner for Cooperative Development David Obonyo, through a Gazette notice dated April 22nd, 2023, directed the Directorate of Cooperatives Audit to investigate how the former board of directors of the SACCO, departmental heads and senior managers reportedly siphoned 15 billion shillings, wiping out the savings of thousands of members. Now you ask, so you called police? They called police. 3 years later, it has been learnt that the investigations have stalled and the profiteers of the fraud are doing what? Walking free. Some of these adversely mentioned in the report have been securing court orders. There they are again, blocking their arrests. The DCI has not gone beyond the interrogation of the suspects, and neither have authorities sought the court permission to freeze assets of the suspects pending prosecutions. Do you see? Steal money, call police, go to court, get order. Stolen funds, outside. Thieves, walking free. And you people tell me
bail,
that this bail
10,000
out for 15 billion. And you people tell me that this is not a movie set. It's a country.
and when you go to EACC, if you're a public official, your people will accompany you and camp outside the EACC and say our person is being targeted. Yes. And then hold a press conference, call Standard Media,
make noise,
say how you're being targeted.
Tomorrow,
something
then finally run for a political seat
and get it
before the hour. Before we get to the top of the hour, there's a story that has been building for some time. There's a gentleman called Elon Musk. This Elon Musk, I'm told, is an African.
South African American.
He's an African. Yeah. You can twist around it. He's an African. Yes. There's something that is associated with his name. It's called Starlink. Starlink satellite. Now, this thing, according to people who understand these things better than I, are saying it's going to disrupt the market. They compare it to how the internet and Safaricom disrupted Kenya Post and Telecommunication, or Telcom. Landline and the business they were doing. They're saying Starlink is going to disrupt, if it hasn't already started disrupting, and it's forcing the competition, Safaricom and all those of their ilk who do their business, to rethink their whole business model. This is a story that we'll talk about in greater detail tomorrow.
Yep. Yes. We will.
Starlink. Disruptive, the positive.
Yes.
Doctors, because we're getting to the top of it, just so we said this was going to happen, the doctors have issued an industrial action notice over pay arrears in 40 counties. Doctors have said that this is going to happen. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union expressed frustration over the continued salary payment delays, which they say have created a financial crisis for doctors and other health staff. KMPDU Secretary General Davji Atela said the doctors' grievances are rooted in the persistent failure by county governments to honour their obligations to pay health workers on time. Even if the money is small, at least pay them on time. The union accused county governments of failing to prioritise healthcare workers' welfare, with some counties owing salaries for up to 5 months. The lack of timely payments, coupled with the already difficult working conditions, he said, have severely demoralised the medical staff, leading to burnouts and mass resignations. I mean, goodness me, how much worse can it get? You think they'll find the money? It's all a wait and see kind of thing. We're getting to the top of the hour. Conversations about impeachment versus the Constitution come in at 7 a.m. Good morning, everybody. 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
It's now 7 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga. President William Ruto is set to launch key development projects as he begins a 4-day tour of opposition chief Raila Odinga's Nyanza's region. The visit is loaded with political significance as it comes in the wake of a newfound relationship between the two former political arch-rivals. Ruto and Raila have struck a political deal that saw the opposition boss release his top lieutenants to join the cabinet. They include Treasury CS John Badi, who is the former ODM chairman, and Energy CS Apio Andai, who was the National Assembly minority leader. Ahead of the visit that starts today, Interior PS Raymond Amolo on Monday hosted all Luo MPs to agree on priority projects for the region and to ensure the success of the tour. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers say despite a court order suspending their strike, it will continue until the government implements all their demands. The Labour Court ordered KUPPET to stop its strike until the time when the case presented by the Teachers Service Commission will be heard and determined. However, Union Secretary General Akela Misori and other officials have instructed its members to continue their strike and ignore any other orders to return to work.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much our director, but tungependa kusema ya kwamba sisi kama walimu tumesema ya kwamba no promotion, no JSS, no confirmation, no
Education CS Julius Migosi has, however, continued to plead with KUPPET teachers to call off their strike, saying that the government is doing everything possible to address their demands.
And negotiating with them, you know, these issues are administrative in nature. In fact, it is not in the CBA. What was in the CBA was the payment. That has been done. But these are legitimate issues that they have and which the government is responding to. All that we are asking is that as we respond to them, they should go back to class and continue teaching as we resolve those administrative issues. It's not, we've shown the goodwill that we are concerned about their plight and we want to do the right thing by them.
U.S. Ambassador to Kenya Meg Whiteman has faulted the government for pointing an accusing finger at American-based private company Ford Foundation of allegations of funding anti-government protests between June and July. Whiteman defended the foundation, citing its track record as a charitable organization in the country since it was founded in 1963. The American envoy said the foundation's leadership has since visited the nation to address the issue, and in due time everyone would see that it was not behind the demonstrations which left more than 60 people dead.
I absolutely thought that was wrong. The Ford Foundation has worked in this country for almost 60 years. They support many, many civil society organizations. By the way, civil society is very important to democracy, alongside youth and religious leaders and others. And I've been quite vocal on this with the government. And we also had the Ford Foundation General Counsel and a couple of others here. And they are working through this. And I think that in the end, people will agree that the Ford Foundation had nothing to do with this. Of course, they fund civil society organizations. So does USAID, right? So does the Wellcome Trust. So does the Rockefeller Foundation. So I thought it was very inappropriate for the government to go after the Ford Foundation.
That's the News Wire. I'm La Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Okay, where are we this morning? Coming through towards traffic hour. Actually, in no time from now. It's still busy in parts of the city here and there. On the Thika Superhighway, traffic is coming in through towards Survey, and that's where we see a bit of a hold up. You know, after the service lanes, nothing is moving. On Jogo Road, heading through towards Landis, it's busy as well. And the usual suspects of coming through towards Muranga Road. And then also on Gong Road, as you come into the city, that's starting to pile up. The Eastern Bypass with some traffic heading towards Embakasi and then out towards North Airport Road and then towards Cabanas. Okay, so that's what it looks like now. Nothing too threatening at the moment, but we'll keep an eye on things as we get closer to traffic hour. And then we'll talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
6 minutes after 7 o'clock, wherever it is that you're tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, welcome to The Situation Room, the agenda-setting program here in Kenya and indeed around the world. What is happening in the spaces where you exist and the spaces that you hear of, we'll have that conversation and making sure that those conversations come to the limelight every day. Our live streams up on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, and on TikTok, and our audiences on KTN. Karibuni sana to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. Today, we're getting into a new conversation this hour, but before we do that, how about I remind you about, okay, so you're looking for a university education. Where do you go? It's a question. Big question mark. Pop. You don't know which country to go to. Another question mark. You don't know which course to study. Another question mark. And the question marks keep coming and coming and coming. What do you do?
So you ask another question.
Where do I go? So the folks with the answers to all these questions are Cradle. Cradle.com. That's the website that you need to visit. And so we ask ourselves, okay, so what happens here? What happens is that they're going to take your information and they're going to match you to some of the best universities around the world that you can afford in the countries that you would not mind living in. And then they would guarantee that you're not a victim of fraudulent activities, these scammers who try to say, bring your money, we'll place you here. You see the process from beginning to end. They've realized the gaps and they say, how about we fill those gaps? And all of this will come together in the World Study Abroad Fair that takes place on the 31st of August. Right there at the Gallant Mall in Parklands from 11 to 4 p.m. You can come, talk to universities from different countries around the world. They will be there to tell you which courses you can apply for, apply on the spot and gain admission. Get information about your visa, get information about accommodation, get all the information that you need. You could go at 11, walk out at 4 with it all sorted out. But you need to register. Register on cradle.com, www.craydel.com, or call 0799 000 444. And enjoy that on the 31st of August, which is this Saturday. All right, our guest for the hour is here. Wakili Ndegwa Njiro, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good morning.
Wakili.
Been long.
Habari yako?
Niko fiti.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes.
I can't see Eric.
You can't see him, but he's here.
You can't see me here?
I can see a stranger.
Stranger has a name.
In Jerusalem.
Ken, say hi to Ndegwa.
Ndegwa is my friend. He knows what he did last week.
I'm not gonna speak to him. So you guys are fighting?
Yes, he knows what he did last week on Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Yes, I know what happened.
Yes.
And you were leaving the Senate at around midnight. So that's why it was not possible for us to appear.
Now you see, he knows what happened.
Yes, I know, and I have to convey my apologies.
You see, now he's apologizing.
Yes.
See, now we as the peace, City and I, who've taken this position as peace brokers,
yes,
we are saying, Ken, it's
peace,
not
peace envoys.
Yeah, envoys.
Peace brokers is always misrepresented. You must appear you might put yourself in the category where you do not belong. You are not a broker. You're an envoy.
Envoy, thank you.
Wakili is a good man until he takes to the podium to impeach a governor.
And it is on that premise that we'll be having this conversation this morning, is it
not?
You've been a very busy man, and not sleeping.
Okay.
Let's talk about that. But first, let's welcome you properly.
Thank you.
There's a way in which we do it.
Yes, and I know what CT is about to do.
Okay. So, and he went to a very interesting country this week.
And I think this book of his needs to be placed properly in a good.
It needs to be immortalized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If the company has that policy, then this book should be one of those archives that must be well taken care of.
So City has woken up this morning and he's decided that his eyes are going
looking
to
at people today. He's not speaking. His eyes are speaking more than his words.
Okay, if it makes you happy, I'm listening with my eyes.
Okay.
A secret of two is soon a secret of nobody. This is a proverb from the People's Republic of Algeria.
A secret of two, you'll soon be a secret of no one.
Yes, nobody.
Then whom do you confine in?
Well, if it is the method that you go about it. You see, if you're a Kenyan, you cannot even claim to have confided in anyone unless there's more than one person.
Yes.
Essentially, you look for your 10 best friends.
Yes.
And you confide in them and you swear them to secrecy.
Yes.
Then they go out and look for their 10 best friends.
It will be all over. Whom to trust.
So how do you interpret that, Wakili?
The question is that you have no place to call home. Yes, you don't know whom to trust. Even those people whom you think are your good friends will at one particular time betray you. And that one, I link it with the agenda we had in Azimio.
Yeah.
We all thought you were going for one safari until we got to a crossroad and some people decided to betray the others. They decided that Addis Ababa is better for them than Nairobi.
And Canaan.
They lost the way to Canaan. Perhaps they might be near Egypt when they're in Addis Ababa and they might retrace themselves. Yes. That's the betrayal we are speaking about.
Where?
That's a betrayal.
Betrayal in the city.
Yes.
By Francis Muga.
Yeah, and the other group says, hatutaungana na hawa watu. At the end of the day, for political convenience, Kenyans are left.
Can do anything.
So both those people in Azimio were betrayed, and those guys in KK were equally betrayed.
As they were telling secrets to one another. Okay.
That's the nature of the people that we live in.
All right.
You can never trust them that you'll ever get where you have agreed
And
to
them
go.
here, I believe, are the politicians, isn't it?
Well, I'm so specific, but that is about William Ruto and Raila Odinga.
And how different are they from the other political leaders?
They're not different.
Okay.
They're not.
I think
they're not. And that's the tragedy this country is having, Ken.
Politicians, same basket.
Yes. But we are soon going to change that culture. Soon.
How now? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at one of the things that you did last week.
Yes.
Things happened very quickly. And I keep saying this because the speed and alacrity with which this impeachment happened was boom, baf, bow.
Yes.
We saw impeachment motion.
Yes.
Very short time after that, we then saw it was debated.
Yes.
Then we saw Senate voted.
Yes.
Upheld the impeachment.
Yeah.
Thereafter, we saw a stay of impeachment.
Yes.
And now we are waiting for
the court
to determine.
Yeah.
In a matter of less than 7 days.
A lot of things happened.
All of these things happened.
Yes.
What's going on?
What is going on is that, and this is coming at the wake of the 14 year to the new constitution.
And just for purposes of clarity, you were the legal representation for the County Assembly of Meru.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, what is happening is that we are in a country where we have not decided to take the right route towards attaining good governance and towards realizing the fruits of the new constitution that we enacted. And therefore, as much as one has a right to access court, and as much as the courts are independent, then you also have to ask yourself where the separation of power is. So we are still in a formative stage in trying to decide how these processes will and which course the process will be taking. The impeachment of Meru governor was properly before the House. Properly prosecuted and executed, a vote taken both at the county assembly and at the Senate, and a decision made for her to go home. But it's within her rights and Article 48 for her to access court in equally, and Article 27 for equal protection and equality before the law. It is within her rights to do what she did. But the question is whether then the court should also exercise restraint when they are dealing with some of these issues that might might bring a bit of conflict in the question of the separation of powers, or they'll apply the doctrine of necessity where it is so necessary them that they must issue these conservatory orders. Because the moment you injunct a constitutional process, they are simply saying that organ was not properly seized of that particular matter. Anyway, it's a matter that is still in court. I don't want to be accused of sub judice, so we'll deal with it in court. But all what was happening at the assemblies and the impeachment process is holding our leaders to account. For the little thing that you think you do, we hold you to account. For example, there was an issue about where the former governor of Meru County, Kawera, misdirected the public that 86 million has been collected towards the funeral of the sniper. And if you look at the constitution, you realize under chapter 6, leaders are to be held account to their statements and their words they make. It looks to be a minute issue, but it's a constitutional issue, because the question is, when you behave in that manner, are you breathing confidence and trust in the office that you hold? So we're in a struggle of making sure that we hold our leaders to account. And that is what is ailing this country, that people do not want to be called to order.
And yet, the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, gives allowance for every single process or every single element of the process that we have seen carry out in the last few days. And that's the Constitution.
That's correct.
So now when you're dealing with an impeachment of a county governor, that for some reason, whether it is people, whether it is members of the assembly who saw that she was not carrying out herself in the way in which she ought to.
Exactly.
What we've seen happen is still along the lines of the Constitution.
About the court processes. That is correct. And that is why it is within her rights for her to access justice. And you cannot say that she's that avenue is not available, because you'll be removing her through the Constitution and then denying her the opportunity of exercising her rights under the same Constitution. And that is the beauty of our democracy, that our democracy will subject you to all processes that will culminate in you feeling that justice was dispensed with, and not justice but substantive justice was dispensed with. And that is the beauty of our Constitution.
The thing I find interesting
is
that every time you have an impeachment matter before the Senate, and then the matter goes to court, what I as a Kenyan benefits from all these processes, I get to understand the workings of the Constitution better. I get to understand how the law deals with some of these issues. Because it's yet another precedent that is being set. There's a former government of Embu called Wambora, who went through this process not once. And somehow he succeeded at every turn. So the precedent is there of somebody who's impeached, goes to court. Court finds that he has grounds for retaining his job. The question is this: in all this, how would you say that the interest of the citizenry is served? Whether it was a citizen of Embu County, now the citizen of Peru, how?
When you look at Article 1, City and Ken and Do, it says that power belongs to the people and shall be exercised in 2 levels, either directly or indirectly. And when we speak about indirect exercise of power, then we have donated those powers to various institutions: Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary, and the county governments. So when Senate seats to adjudicate over this matter, they are exercising the sovereignty of the people, because they are driving the power and the ability to execute that process from the people. But equally well, when you look at Article 159 of the Constitution, it says that judicial power is equally derived from the people and shall be exercised in the name of the people. So all these institutions in a democratic state are exercising the people's power. So at any given time, and of course our Constitution appreciates the question of checks and balances, because it is obvious that no one can claim infallibility. One institution or one organ can go wrong on a particular issue, and then it is corrected by the next tier of checks and balances. That is important, that a person who has undergone through the process of impeachment can still access court, so that if there were some constitutional faults or legal transgressions that were occasioned during that process, she'll not just suffer a remedy without a wrong. There will be something, another institution that will check on that particular issue. The question then should be, if at the county assembly all the way to the Senate, the impeachment process is time-bound and regulated in terms of time, then should somebody seek permanent reprieve in court? So we also need to have legislation saying that you have a right to access court after impeachment, but subsequent to you accessing court, the court that is seized of that matter must adjudicate these issues within a particular period of time, so that you do not continue to serve under the reprieve of a court order. That is the missing link. If you go to the constitution, to election petitions, they are always time-bound. You must complete these election petitions within 6 months. If you go to the Court of Appeal, again it is provided for. Previously, would have people going for election petitions, and they would serve the entire term on the basis of that particular election petition. But we realized that misnomer, and we corrected it. So it is the work of the Senate then to correct this by legislating and saying, you who have suffered an impeachment, you have a right to access court. But the court must adjudicate over this matter within a particular period of time, so that then justice can then be dispensed.
Is
it
spelled out?
No, it's not spelled out. Up to date, there is no legislation that has been created by the Senate to provide for the mechanisms of impeachment. We only have one section called Section 33, which is not elaborate, is not fully elaborate on what ought to happen.
How do you make that elaborate? What process must be followed to get
the procedure of impeachment ought to be a process that somebody feels that justice has been dispensed with. For example, when the matter goes to the Senate sits as a political organ and a quasi-judicial organ. So it is supposed to strike that balance. So it is supposed to sit and listen to the evidence coming from the county assembly, and listening to the evidence coming from the defense, that is the governors, collate that evidence and make a determination. So when the Senate sits to make that determination, a Senate of 48 senators, each senator sits as a single judge, representing the delegation from his county to hear and listen to this, to hear and determine this case. But what happens at the fullness of time is, then the standing orders, some senators insist that other than just going to cast your votes upon evaluation of the evidence, you need debate. When you subject a judicial process to a debate, you are of course fettering the impartiality of that particular senator who is now acting as a judge. And that's a tragedy that our laws have not been able to address. So that if a person is impeached in the Senate, he or she feels that she was granted a fair trial.
How do you correct this anomaly?
Legislation.
And who is supposed to?
The Senate.
If that is to happen,
yes.
You know, oftentimes we give this prescription and we say that, okay, there's an anomaly here, it needs to be rectified, it needs to be fixed. But the folks then who are supposed to actually fix it, if there's no genuine desire, if there is no goodwill, or before you even get to that, if there is no awareness or even accepted awareness that there's a problem here, what is the likelihood that they would actually look at this legislation and say, okay, guys, it's about time we did something about it, without situations reoccurring that would show you there's something? The likelihood of you looking at this thing and saying, let's do something about it, then is decreased significantly.
No, I don't even think that is the problem. The problem, the reason why the Senate is not, because how many impeachments have we had in the last 13 years or so? There's so many impeachments.
That's correct.
And Wambora's impeachment should have settled this. However, the concern is this. Senators usually graduate to be governors. Governors come back to be senators. These guys are protecting their turf. If they legislate to an extent that they know at the end of the day this will be settled in that record time, then it jeopardizes their future chances when they fall in the same position. So for me, aside from what Ndu is asking, I think the reason why there's no legislation, and you can confirm this or explain it, is because senators need to protect that political space.
cannot be more right than he is, and equally do. The fact is that some of the best proposals in terms of legislations are mutilated by political expediency. That somebody needs to protect his future political career, and therefore he cannot bring forth an elaborate legislation that will address these anomalies.
Protect his future career.
Yes.
The career is not what is being impeached.
Yes.
It is wrongdoing.
Yes.
Purported, perceived, actual, real, imagined. That is what.
Yes, exactly.
So are we therefore implying that whether it is the senators who want to be governors or vice versa, that they foresee their career as being one where they will do wrong?
Exactly. Yes, because that has been the tradition in this country, and the tradition that we do not hold our people to account, and that you do not go into public service to serve. You go into public service to enrich yourself, and therefore once you go to public service...
Actually, no, it's not enrich. If you say enrich
to steal,
plunder.
To plunder, to spillage our resources.
Yes.
So you can never be in a position to come up with a legislation that addresses and all that will cut the hand that feeds you. And that's the tragedy about this country. And that's what the Gen Zs are speaking about. That's what the millennials are speaking about. That's what Generation Zote zinazungumzia.
But you know, the good thing here is that even as we're talking about it, their actions are doing us a great service in that they stand revealed. It's clear that anything that would set this thing right and bring about the accountability that we desire will not happen with the lot that we have.
Well, I cannot agree with you more. That we need to change. It's a high time that we change the faces that appears on day to day on our screens. That is where the problem is. Since I was young, mimi nimekuwa nikiona Wetangula, nimekuwa nikiona Musalia Mudavadi, nimekuwa nikiona Raila Odinga, nimekuwa nikiona Ruto. You know, old faces have stuck to our screens. It's a high time we change those faces. And not just for the sake of changing them, but changing them with individuals who will meet or who will foot the bill as contemplated in the Constitution. These guys are so accustomed to the processes that they have been perpetuating. And it's the processes of theft, spillage of our resources, unaccountability, impunity, you know, and feeling like they are entitled to those offices. That entitlement is what we must bring down. We must make sure that entitlement falls.
So, I mean, in as much as we're talking about the tenets of what one saw from the very beginning that essentially led to an impeachment, and the issues that we see surrounding, unfortunately, mediocre governance.
Yes.
Would we say that it is not then, is it possible to have the politics of the day run alongside systems that are working properly? That it doesn't really matter what side of the political divide that you're on. It doesn't matter if you're a senator today and you want to be governor tomorrow. It doesn't matter if you're a governor and you want to be senator the next time. But it is possible to have systems in place, the rule of law functioning, the constitution being upheld. Is it possible?
It is possible because the constitution that we enacted gave a roadmap, and Article 10 of the Constitution, which creates the values and the values and the principles of governance. These values and principles of governance, the Constitution provides that they bind each and every person, both private person and public person, including the institutions created under the Constitution. One of those values is the value of the rule of law. The rule of law binds me as a private citizen, and binds the state organs, and binds state officers and public officers. And if we were to contemplate a situation whereby Article 10 is allowed to thrive, that it means then that institutions can coexist hand in hand with the politics of the day, and that the politics of the day will respect the institutions that we have created, because the architecture of our constitution when we created it was designed from the previous experiences that we had. They informed a lot on what we were to do. And we realized that if we centralize power in one particular person, it's likely that power will be abused. City knows this better than most of us do. And then that is then to mean that we created these institutions to diffuse power, to decentralize power. But these institutions are not working. For example, why is IPOA not telling us what will happen or what actions have been taken to the people who were killed during the protests? Why? Because it has been held captive. It's a state organ being financed by the state, being financed by Kenyans. Some of the parents who lost their children are still financing and paying those officers working that particular office, but they have no moral. They don't have the commitment to do that which is good. Why? Because for them, it's political expediency that matters. It's about the protection of their job that matters. It's not about doing what is just and what is right. Because we are not able to separate our institutions from the constitutional process, from the political processes.
Why?
Because most of those guys who go there to those positions, I beg your pardon, do not go there on the basis of merits. They go there on the basis of political patronage. And that is what is killing this country. For example, CT sits here as a matter of merits, meritocracy. But when you go to government, CT will not sit on that seat on the basis of merits. It's on the basis of whom do you know. For example, the changes that were done in the recent in this government about the cabinet secretaries, how is that one going to change and revolutionize the status of our economy? How?
It won't change.
How will Oparanya change and make people pay the Fuliza thing, the hustler funds, which he said you should not pay? How?
It's a how question. Let's take a break.
Let's also look at how he performed when he was in Kakamega. So that then we are saying, you did exemplary well. You are equal to the task of running this. Let us look at what Joho did when he was in Mombasa. You know, how then do we reward you? On what basis? It's purely political patronage because Oparanya is associated to Raila.
Yes.
Joho is close to Raila. Wandai is close to Raila. Bandi is close to Raila. Then you are as white as snow. We don't care about the meritocracy. We have a serious problem about the manner in which our minerals are being exploited. But is Joho an expert in minerals? Even when he was asked during his interview, he never told us his expertise. He only told us that I have gone to school and I have been motivated by Professor Ali Mazurui, which is a good thing. But how well endowed are you in that field in which we are conferring you with the responsibility to execute?
It's a big question. Let's take a break on that note at 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. Advocate Wakili Ndegwa Njiro is our guest this hour. Looking at the Constitution, not just in piecemeal when we're looking at impeachments, but now that then segues our conversation into many other things that are happening and looking at a day after Katiba Day. Is the Constitution actually being upheld? Those conversations continue right after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know that feeling where there's like a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to... But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
Are you ready to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 23. It's sunny in Nakuru, going to highs of 24. 23 will be the high in a cloudy Nyeri, and 24 will also be the high in a sunny Eldoret. Mombasa, cloudy, going to highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in a partly sunny Malindi. It's 20 and sunny in Kisumu, and 18 and sunny in Kakamega. Kampala at 20 is sunny, and it's cloudy at 24 in Dar es Salaam. It's 12 degrees and sunny conditions in Johannesburg, while Mogadishu at 26 is sunny. Addis Ababa is cloudy at 14. Lagos partly cloudy at 24, with Kinshasa clear at 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, traffic still continues in the city this morning. Just a little bit of movement coming in now on the eastern bypass, and that'll make its way then through towards North Airport Road. Very, very busy traffic on the Thika Superhighway today, and it's going to take us all the way through towards Survey, and then as you get towards Wangari Maathai, it's going to pack up as you then touch on museums, and Kiambu Road is also busy. It's coming on busy on Limuru Road as well. Let's take a quick look at what's coming off of Waiaki Way. James Gishiro giving through towards that junction with no traffic at this point, but then we're going to see some traffic coming in from Kangemi out towards Westlands through and through. Okay, we are in traffic hour now proper. Let's see how it builds up as we get through the morning. We'll speak on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continuing into the conversation at 24 minutes to 8 o'clock. Our guest this hour is Wakili Degwanjiro. Ken has a question that he wants to ask you about this whole issue.
Yes. Wakili, it has been demonstrated that indeed this can be dealt with. I know it's a difficult situation, especially now that we've determined that the governors or the potential governors are protecting their turf. But it has been demonstrated. But I want to know from you what it took to make it possible to now recall members of parliament. When you look at Article 104 and the enabling legislation under the Elections Act, and specifically sections 45 and 46, that now enables impeachment, I'd like to know what made it possible that now the legislation has been changed, that now recall is a reality. And what would it take? Forget about the senators not enacting this. What would it take? Would we go the way the other institutions went in order to ensure that recall was made possible? Do you think that is what it will take?
Yeah, I agree with you. And we must, first of all, appreciate again the architecture of our constitution is where the people are supreme. And when the people are supreme, we created and gave unto ourselves some residual powers, which we previously never had, that can be utilized to hold our leaders to account. Some of those residual powers, and of course it is in furtherance of Article 10 about the question of transparency, accountability, the rule of law, democracy, good governance, human rights, social justice, equity and equality, is the ability for the member of for the people either to hold their president to account, to hold that's the executive to account, to hold all the legislatures to account, and the county governments to account. That is why we created the provisions of the recall of members of parliament. That if you do not conform to that which is desired in the constitution, that is to legislate, to oversight, and to represent the people, then the people do not have to wait for the 5 years to end so that they can then vote you out. They can recall you mid-term. But now, when this matter went to parliament in 2012 under the Elections Act, it was made very difficult by the parliamentarians for the people to recall their MPs. For example, while you can hold the president to account through a process of impeachment being launched in the National Assembly and subsequently going to the Senate, for me to be able to remove a member of parliament, I have to go to the High Court, and the High Court must first of all make a declaration that this person this MP has not lived up to the tenets and the expectations of the Constitution, and therefore is liable for removal under the recall clause. And the thinking, of course, was good thinking, because if you look at the impeachment of a governor or the impeachment of the president or his deputy president, it has two tiers: the National Assembly and the Senate. And the third tier perhaps will even be the High Court. But now, the MP is just seated there in the legislature or in the assemblies, and there is no other place where you can go to have his petition being launched.
Yeah.
That is why it was then wise for them to introduce a petition in the High Court, for the High Court, first of all, to make a finding that this person has breached these provisions. Then subsequent to that finding, then you move then to the AACC, to the IEBC. Because IEBC, in the process of the recall, cannot act as an arbiter. It cannot act as a judge.
It's a go-between.
Yes, it's just a conveyor belt of the process that has begun and commenced. So the thinking behind going to the High Court was good thinking. The only fault with it is, again, time. That you cannot recall 12 months after elections and 12 months before the next subsequent election. You cannot recall. Again, that is a conundrum that we have been invited into. I don't understand why I can impeach my president the first day he takes oath for breach of the Constitution and violation of the same, and I cannot impeach the member of parliament the first day he takes oath. So those are some of the legal anomalies that we need to deal with, so that the members of the House, be it the National Assembly or the Senate, will be held to account. For example, when the people spoke and said we do not want the finance bill, if they were legislating for and on behalf of the people, why had they to go and insist on that legislation? You know, that is basically saying that you hold in contempt the person who has given you the power to legislate. So those are some of the legal anomalies that we need to bring into conformity with the realities of the times of holding people to account. And that is when we are being then invited 14 years later to do an introspection and an evaluation of the Constitution. Has it lived up to its expectations? You know, I am surprised that instead of us going to evaluate whether the Constitution has lived up to the expectations, now the doors of Fungamano are opening up again. Not to discuss the gains and to celebrate the gains of the Constitution, but to go there and lament that the Constitution that we enacted has been violated and infringed and defiled by the political class.
Even as you say that, Wakili, I would have to ask then to whom is this lament being made? To whom? You know, because here I am, I could be a child crying, and the person who's going to give me is my father or mother.
Yes.
And the person I am complaining to is not my father or mother.
Yes.
How do we expect that person then to be able to do something about it? Or who should the complaint go to?
Again, that is a tragedy, and that's a very good question. Even if we lament, who listens to us? Who is going to take up these lamentations? Who is going to implement them? And what is the procedure? Again, that is where we fall to the political trap. That if I was desirous of changing a particular provision in the Constitution, the process is a political process. I need to have the counties endorsing my move or my bill, and then I also need to have the Parliament and the Senate. And as an individual like City and I, we may not have any influence in the Parliament. So at the end of the day, you are told, hey, kama Raila ataki, hii kitu haiwezi pita. Kama Ruto ataki, hii kitu haiwezi pita bunge. You see? Because the people we took to Parliament have no allegiance and loyalty to the people who elected them. They pledge a loyalty to their party leaders, not knowing or not understanding that the boss is not the party leader, but the persons who took you to Parliament.
Isn't it worse? Because I think they actually do understand. And I think that's the tragedy, really, that they do understand that your boss is not your party leader, but that your boss is the person who took you into that position by virtue of their vote. I think they do understand
you
that.
Don't overrate
and that's
them.
Why
some of them do not even understand why they're in Parliament.
Wakili, why do we have that saying? That
some of them are actually morons.
There's a verse in the Bible that says that knowing that something is wrong and doing it is actually a sin. And for me, that's the tragedy. That you know that this thing is not right. But you still go ahead and do it.
Can I tell you why they don't understand? If, for example, you look again at the architecture of our constitution, and I wish we had an opportunity to breathe life to this constitution, it would solve much of the problems that we have. We have the minority and the majority side. The minority and the majority side are fused by the functions of parliament. They may be the majority or they may be the minority, but their work is to legislate, is to represent, and to oversight, notwithstanding whether in the minority or you're in the majority. That is to mean Ishongwa should be asking serious questions why actions have not been taken by the relevant state organ in respect to the people who are killed, because that is the work of the majority to oversight government.
Yeah.
But when they are elected, they think they have become part and parcel of the executive.
They don't think, they know.
They know they have become.
They practice.
The practice that they have become part and parcel of the executive. But that is not the constitutional architecture. The constitutional architecture is the minority and the majority are fused in their functions, in making sure that they oversight government. But when you hear them speak, you'll think that Ishongwa is holding brief for the president, or Opio Andai is holding brief for his party leader when he was the minority leader.
But then, Wakili, is this then not what you've just said, the reality of not our politics, but of our situation?
Yes.
This is our lived reality.
Yes.
Because the moment we accepted that so long as one can get away with a misdeed, then that misdeed is no longer misdeed.
Exactly.
It is okay.
Yes.
And we have accepted it. Now, the executive in this country, even with our 2010 constitution, still attempts to have the same powers that the previous presidents who didn't have this constitution. And it appears that those whom we elect see the constitution as a hindrance to their progress.
City, you could not have diagnosed the problem better than you have. And I wish they could just listen to what you have said. For them, this constitution is not an ambulance. It's a hindrance. It's clogging their desire to do that which is wrong and that which is bad. Whereas the constitution creates a roadmap of building and rebirth of a nation. But that is not what is happening. For them, they consider the constitution as a drawback. Hii ni kitu mbaya sana. For example, why should Mr. William Ruto go and make a pronouncement that NYS will be trained on how to use firearms if you have no intention of converting them into a militia, or you have no intention of recruiting them into the mainstream? What he's simply doing, he want to unleash thugs into our society, unless he's going to tell us how is he going to resolve that problem. That roadside declaration was stopped by this constitution. But you know, the tragedy again is we are dealing with a person in the name of a president who never supported this document and who has never read it. I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt that Mr. William Ruto has never read a single clause of this constitution.
What did he swear?
He swore to defend a document that he does not understand. And that is a tragedy. That is why if people go to exercise their sovereignty under Article 37, they are met with police brutality. That is why people are abducted for exercising their rights. That is why you go and make roadside declarations. Because Mr. William Ruto, and that's a tragedy, does not understand this constitution.
Now, hold on. On that last thing that you said.
Yes.
That if, according to what you're saying, if he doesn't understand the constitution, then I'm seeing you already drawing the parallels between a misunderstanding or under comprehension of that. And that is why we see these different threads of things happening.
Yes.
That's why the persona of a leader and the way in which they operate is extremely important.
Exactly.
Because everybody else feeds off of that energy. Everybody else is looking at this one thing and saying, well, if this happens, then I can do this.
Yes.
If this happens, then I can do this.
Exactly.
So if there's a miscomprehension at that level, then whether it is impeachments, whether it is legislation,
it always goes south. And that is hii ndio shida tuko nayo hii Kenya. That we do not evaluate our leaders on the basis of their merits and their ability to execute and to live true to their words and their deeds. We elect them on the basis of who speaks the best English, who speaks the best rhetorics, ni nani anashikanisha sana na wananchi, but we never get time to evaluate them. If you look at the debate that is going on in America today, and I was listening to Barack Obama when he was attending the convention for the Democrats, you realize that these guys are speaking about substance. Again, when you listen to Mr. William Ruto on the other side, and he's a serving president, you realize who ni jamaa. He does not know hana mbele na wala hana nyuma. That is why you'll go and launch projects left, right, and center without understanding that people will go back and evaluate whether these projects are actually genuine or they are just white elephants.
But Wakili, on the subject of whether the president understands the
he
constitution
does
or
not.
not,
Yes, that's what I'm convinced. Don't convince me otherwise.
No,
Yes.
I'm not even going to try to convince you.
Yes.
I'm just going to make a statement. Somebody who goes about his business the way the president does, I would argue, is somebody who actually understands the constitution. He understands exactly what the constitution is meant to do.
Yes.
Because the amount of effort that he and those who are in the executive, the effort they make to convince us in word and some deeds that what they were elected for is actually what they are doing. And yet the reality is the complete opposite. That is not the actions of someone who does not understand the constitution. Well, those are the actions of somebody who understands it fully well, understands the consequences, and that is why he had a town hall at KICC the other day. He understands it very well.
Which brings me back to my other point. That's why for me it's a tragedy and travesty. Because you do understand it, you know what it requires you to do, and yet we still see things going in the other direction. For me, that's the problem.
Because it's a hindrance.
You can see. Let me tell you, my brothers and sisters, do not be convinced that political swindlers can make a presentation on when they make their presentations, and political spin doctors when they make their presentation like what they were doing in KICC on Sunday is an understanding of the constitution. Is a failure to understand the constitution. For example,
is this not two sides of the same coin?
That
exactly what you're saying. That it is not an understanding, and I'm saying no, it is. You see, what was he trying to put across in meeting these young people?
He was spinning. He has become a spin doctor.
Precisely. That spinning has an element that we must not lose sight of. He actually physically went, organized that meeting. Why does he need to give the impression that he's placating or listening or addressing? Why bother? For somebody, why go into all that problem?
You see, why had he to do that? Because he's firefighting. The policy is already in place. He's coming to convince the people after the fact.
But Wakili,
conviction should have been
if you're firefighting, it means you understand the fire.
He does not understand, because before you get to this fire, you must involve the people through the public participation.
So your point,
so that the
he
people
should have begun where he's ending.
He should have begun where he's ending. But we would not have been having this hue and cry.
He's ending it. Let's take the tour of Nyanza, for instance.
It
isn't the first time. We saw President Uhuru doing this.
Yes.
It seems to be the practice of our politics.
Exactly.
That when you want to show goodwill towards people who are supporting you purportedly, is you visit their area.
And you purport to give projects.
Actually, you just mention them. And if you have the wherewithal, you even inaugurate some. That is our practice. And people seem happy with this.
Because we have not taken time to liberate our people from this mess.
Do our people really want to be liberated, Wakili? This is a question.
If you have seen the kind of the clamor that is now arising, that is now there, people want to change.
Which people specifically?
Well, we have been called to order by the Gen Zs, and I must give the credit to them. So that any person who does not follow that path, then you'll have to, the laws will have to fall where they lie. And may I say that hii katiba yetu hakuna mali inasema ati projects zinapeanwa na rais. When he says, I am going to give you this, I am going to build, you are building as who?
Okay, hold on. This morning, 2,000, what is the number?
2,800
2,800 jobs are being already asked of the president before he begins his Nyanza tour. Teachers, right?
Yeah,
jobs for teachers, isn't it? Yeah. So the areas, it's one of the things they're asking for.
Who from the president?
The people are asking the president that as he's coming,
yes,
he should be coming.
But you
with
see,
those jobs for 2,800 of them.
But you see, has it been assessed on the need criteria?
Wakili,
let me.
The point you're making is not only logical.
Yes.
It is the correct position to take.
Yes.
But the reality is this.
Exactly.
If we still have a political leadership and a population who believe that the president has the purview and has the ability to dish
give
out
jobs.
goodies, then, and we can't get our people's mind out of this.
I think progressively we'll get there. Progressively you'll get there. When the Gen Zs were out calling Mr. William Ruto to order, at least everybody was convinced that this is the right way to go. And we have not lost that spirit, and we shall not lose it. Why? And then you have heard the Gen Z saying, nyinyi watu amuta kupiga kura, tutachukua mpaka hizo ID zenu. Why? Because they consider us and their parents as a source of the problem this country is having. Why? Because City will sit there and be convinced that the president can issue jobs, that the president can dish out jobs, that the president can allocate projects.
Actually, he can. Because
No. You see, the unfortunate thing is the Gen Zs and the millennials are 28 million strong. You, the people who have been making these wrong decisions, will be overwhelmed by the desire of the Gen Zs and the millennials and the X to do that which is right, and you'll conform to that particular call. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you'll be compelled to conform to that new order.
This brainwashing begins long before the president, because the first thing that people of Nyanza were told is that we have often lost out of opportunities in government
because you're not in government.
Because you're not in government.
Yes.
So then we cross over to the government.
Let me tell you, Ken,
this is what the president is coming with. So the brainwashing starts
Ken, let
long
me tell
before
you,
then.
when we enacted this new constitution, we wanted to divorce ourselves from those particular political rhetorics. And that's why we said Parliament shall be the body that shall be bestowed with the power to allocate resources. Mr. William Ruto has no resources that he can allocate to a particular project. It has to trickle down from Parliament. He has no goodies that he can give you. And we shall continue telling the people the truth. That when he comes and tells you that I'm going to give you 2,800 jobs, it's a lie.
To employ 2,800.
He has no capacity to employ. It's a lie. When he goes and tells you I will allocate money to this particular project or a road or anything, it's a lie. The money belongs to us. It is us to allocate the money. If you look at Article 201 of the Constitution, it creates the procedure for allocation of this money. It's not Mr. William Ruto. And that is why he does not understand the Constitution. That's why he keeps on saying, nitawapatia kazi, unatupatia kazi ukiwa nani?
Actually, Wakili, I'm going to give an analogy here. Have you, when you first went to the university, did you ever find a very strange phenomenon that you'd find footprints on a toilet seat?
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, I understand what that person was doing and what he was trying to avoid.
This is somebody who is accustomed to squatting.
Yes.
That there is a seat and they're meant to sit on it.
Not appreciated.
Precisely. So we have a constitution.
Yes.
Swanking, new, good.
Yes, but being implemented by people who are accustomed to squatting.
Yes.
Yes, that's a tragedy again.
You give them a good thing, they squat.
Yes, they squat.
And you're saying, Chief, you're supposed to sit on this
Boss,
thing.
sit.
This is I'm supposed to squat.
They're going to squat. And even it's even precarious.
Yes.
Because it's raised.
Yes.
So balancing on it
is much
genuinely tricky.
Yes.
Now.
So what? Draw the parallel really quickly, CT.
I think he has done it. that the Constitution is being implemented by people who are accustomed to squatting. And they, of course, when they squat, they mess.
Completely. You see, the point is, so long as our mind is still on the old Constitution.
Yes. The pit latrine.
Yes. The pit latrine.
The village pit latrine.
The village pit latrine.
Yes.
This particular new constitution is even confusing because partly we don't actually believe that the things that are there are actually real and they can happen.
They can happen, CT.
I know they can.
And they will happen in our lifetime.
I know that not they will happen. They're already happening.
Yes, in our
even
lifetime.
As we watch. But
yes.
The tragedy is people see it happening and they still don't want to believe that it's actually happening.
Yes, and that is why you will see Mr. William Ruto authorizing his foot soldiers to meet the protesters who are just holding a phone and a bottle of water and a kitambaa with firearms, with bullets, with water cannons, with tear gas. Because it does not respond to the dictates of Article 37 of the Constitution. But you want to tell him that there is the desire and the fire that burns in us that you cannot put out with any water. There is this desire that burns in us, the desire for change that you cannot even put out with tear gases.
Okay.
There is a desire for change that will have to happen in this country that will not be silenced by even bullets. And then we are saying we shall overcome this tyranny. We shall overcome bad governance. We shall overcome impunity. We shall overcome this bad behavior and bad manners in governance.
It'll happen.
We shall overcome.
That's a good note to end on. Wakili, the words will be heard and the conversations must continue.
Thank you.
Thank you for being our guest this hour. More conversations in the future. It's 8 a.m.
Imeisha.
Spice up your life.
It's now 8 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. State-owned textile firm Rivertex East Africa Limited is facing an imminent collapse amid revelations of massive losses amounting to more than 3 billion shillings. Auditor General Nancy Gathungu cast doubt on the continued existence of the firm due to losses and huge debts in the latest audit report. The report for the financial year ending June 30th, 2023 reveals that the company incurred an accumulated loss of 3.04 billion shillings. The firm cited high cost of inputs such as labor, electricity, water, fuel, spares, repairs and maintenance as the cause for firm's inability to produce and supply products on time. In addition, the firm has accrued debt of more than 140.92 million Kenya shillings. The debt comprises 56.88 million shillings owed to suppliers, accrued expenses of 2.13 million shillings, 4.33 million retention monies, and some 67.29 million owed to Moi University Pension Scheme deductions. The National Assembly Committee on the Parliamentary Development Fund, that is NGCDF, has challenged the Ministry of Environment to design policies that will be used to deal with climate change through the fund. During the meeting to finalize the preparation of guidelines for the revised NGCDF law regarding the funding of measures to combat climate change, the committee also emphasized the importance of embracing clean energy and planting saplings, that is tree seedlings, in public schools to strengthen the fight against the negative effects of climate change. Here is the chairman of the committee, Musa Sirma.
To green the place can never be green only from the school or green from some public land, unless you are talking about forest reserves which are there, but how many forest areas do we have in this country? So we need to mitigate this through also issuance of seedlings to the public through the chiefs or the Ngao group during the time of planting. Because unless we are going to support the farmers, then we shall only be talking about trees in schools, trees in public places.
A police officer and a civilian were arrested in a probe into claims of abduction of a man at a short stay room in Pangani area, Nairobi. Constable Mohammed Hussein and civilian Lul Salat appeared before Makadara law courts and were charged with the offence of trafficking in persons and demanding money with menaces. They both denied charges and were released on a bond of 1 million shillings and similar surety. The case is set for hearing on March next year. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, where are we at? A few minutes after 8 o'clock. It still continues with traffic this morning. It's a busy Wednesday. Coming off of Jogo Road, that has been crazy off the jump as you're heading out towards the city, and then Landy spill over towards Lusaka Road, as well as seeing some traffic then getting towards Haile Selassie at the junction. It's also busy coming off of Mzima Springs as you then get towards James Gishuru and then spilling over towards the Red Hill Link Road. The Thika Superhighway continues to be extremely busy. We got some traffic on Kiambu Road, and that's going to continue for some time. And look at Wangari Maathai, very, very busy traffic on Wangari Maathai Way as you get towards museums, and then some of that is going to come off on Uhuru Highway. All right, that's probably what looks like the worst of it for now. We're keeping an eye on all of this morning. Let's talk on Spice FM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right. 7 minutes after 8 o'clock, and the room is already buzzing this morning. And we're continuing into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation and getting into this. What is splashed across the front pages of almost every daily today? Unleashed. A new African statesman, a new Pan-Africanist now being presented to the continent, essentially, in terms of who can do what. And we're going to be having that conversation this hour. But before I let you know who our guests are going to be, Siti, tell us about university education. What do we do? Where do we go? How do we approach?
You know, in this country, the one thing that citizens agree on is the focus and the attention we give to the education of our children.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenyan parents will leave no stone unturned to ensure that their children actually get to study. But along the way, they often come across hurdles. Now, you want your child to study. What do you do?
Yeah.
You want your child to study abroad. How do you even begin? Where do you go? Who do you trust? Well, I think the answer to that is provided by one institution that has made it their time and bother to ensure that they understand studying abroad, and all the wherefores around it. And they are going to be here in Kenya on the 31st of this month.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's the Study Abroad World Fair that takes place on the 31st of August. Universities from the UK, the US, Spain, I beg your pardon, Grenada, Cyprus, Ireland, New Zealand, will be in Nairobi at the Gallant Mall from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. And all the questions, imagine every single question that you've ever had about the possibilities of university education abroad can be answered. You can apply for admission and get it on the spot. You can get information about scholarships that are available. You can get information about housing options. You can also get information about visa options, because there'll be visa officers on board just to let you know what you need to do. It's your one-stop shop to all your answers concerning a university education. Let's do it this Saturday on the 31st from 11 to 4 p.m. at the Gallant Mall in Parklands, and get all these I's dotted and the T's crossed with Cradle. Dial 0799 000 or you can log on to www.cradle.com and register. Invite only. You get the invite when you register. Okay, our guests for this hour are seated. Yes? And we're going to be looking at the road towards the AUC chairmanship and what it means for Raila Odinga. Implications for Kenya and Africa. Political risk analyst Dismas Mokua is in the hot seat. And in the other hot seat is Professor Agitile Naituli, who is a governance analyst. Good to have you in the room this morning. Good morning, gentlemen, both of you.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Everybody's doing okay, I think. Okay. That's great. Yeah. I'm in the minority at this point, but it's okay. We'll deal.
No, you're in the majority.
Well, in terms of
about feeling okay, I guess that's what you want to say.
I was going to play. I was playing the gender card at the moment.
Gender card, yes.
But you know,
it's not in the constitution.
But I will see. I will hold my own. We're like, I'm not okay. Let's welcome you to the Situation Room in true Situation Room style. CT has proverbs from Algeria.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The People's Republic of Algeria.
Yes.
Yes, a mishmash, a crossroad of cultures and civilizations dating back to the BC era. Phoenicians, Romans, Vandals, Byzantine, Greeks, Turks. All these people at some point or the other, before the French came along, had been part and parcel of Algeria. But even before all this were the Berbers. Spelt Berber, but pronounced in English Berbers.
Berber.
Yeah, these are the unique natives of this particular country. But now they're a minority in Algeria. 70%, 75% are actually Arabs. The proverb for the day: a secret of two is soon a secret of nobody.
Let's start with you, Dismas. What do you think about that? What does it mean? How would you interpret that?
In my community, there's a proverb that you don't respond to a proverb when your senior is around. So I'll let Professor respond to that.
It could be that the prof wants to see if you're actually on the right path, according to his opinion.
No, but my culture doesn't allow me. If I do that, then I'll be required to slaughter
you will not be able
a few goats.
To drink amongst the elders should you go back.
When I go back, I will not be allowed to sit in a baraza.
Okay. So your elders watch TV in the morning?
Oh, they are switched on. They've got Starlink.
In all ways. Wow. Okay, we'll allow you that. Prof, seeing as he's dodging, because we know what he's doing, he wants to see what you're going to say and then pick up off on that. So what would your interpretation of the proverb be?
The secret of two is not a secret.
Yes.
That's why Jesus was very good at telling people that what I've done to you, don't tell anyone else, because he intended them to broadcast it. He intended them to tell everybody.
Well said.
They normally say that a secret of two is only valid if one party is dead.
Yeah.
Then it's
well, our lived experience, as we were saying in the previous hour, whenever someone is told something in confidence, he looks for his 10 best friends and swears them to secrecy.
Exactly.
And they in turn look for their 10 best friends and also swear them to secrecy.
Jesus knew that very well.
They normally say, between you and I.
Yes.
Actually, that's something we did, and I'm sure Ken would confirm this, that
when it was between two of you.
No. In communication advisory, or when you're training VIPs for media interviews, they normally make a mistake when they meet a journalist and they say, between you and I, this is the actual position. But when we go on air, I'm not going to repeat the same. And you see already the journalist has the story.
Yep.
It's the between you and I. That's where the story is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're kind of on the same page. One thing that is no secret in the country today, and maybe then at the shores of the continent, is that Raila, however you want to look at it, when we use the word unleashed, has been unleashed on the continent, as it were. It's carried everywhere today. Raila's show of power at State House yesterday. Raila unleashed. I am made for Africa. It goes on and on and on. And it seems as though it is at this moment then that the world then will get this information about who Raila is and what it is that he is going to be able to do. Let's just get overview in terms of sentiment about what is currently going on. I mean, we saw the launch of the bid, which was the official launch of the bid. Now go ye forth and conquer the continent is essentially what happened at State House yesterday. Let's start with you, Prof. Give your overall sentiments about this particular thing, and let's see what it then would mean for Kenya and Africa.
Yes, after we lost to Chad in the last time around, Amina Mohamed lost to Mohamed Faki, the EU appropriately changed the rules, and they said the regions will rob the attorney. So there's the attorney for East Africa. And the response from East African member states was good. When we called them to come and support us, they showed up to support us. So the headlines are correct. We have unleashed Raila on the continent. and Raila is a Pan-Africanist. He has cut his profile appropriately for that job. And I think if we were to compare him with the other three candidates, then he is a front runner, as it were. So is thoroughly qualified for the position. And I think if we market him carefully, carefully means that sometimes we need to avoid some bombastic, we over exaggerate certain things. We need to reduce that so that other Africans can being humble and seeking with humility possession sometimes is received better than over-exaggerating the situation. So we need to reduce the over-exaggeration, and I think Raila is quite capable of selling himself because, I mean, he's very well known, not just as a prime minister, but as a crusader for democracy on the continent.
Prof, you've said something that has interested me. You said the Africa Union changed the rules after Mohamed Faki versus Amina. Were these rules in paper? And then secondly, you said it's East Africa community time. Was it this rule, was it in paper? Or secondly, is it a gentleman kind of agreement? And is it based on regions or based on language?
Is it a rotating chairman?
Actually, it is region. It's not language. Because if we say, East Africa includes Mozambique, which in our colonial past is supposed to be what they call, what is that? There's Francophone, Anglophone,
yes.
Lusophone, yes. So it's not based on language. It's actually region. They split Africa into 4 regions.
Okay.
The north, the south, the east, and the west. And so there is also another rule there, which I think they seem to have removed also, that a man, if this time was a man, then the next time is a woman.
Okay.
So they removed that one also, meaning that giving Raila really a very nice space to compete.
It was easy to remove that because it wasn't on paper. I think this was basically a gentleman agreement as opposed to put in their...
The gender was on the paper.
Was on paper.
Yeah, but the other one, the region one,
was
not on paper.
Okay.
So there is an understanding from what you're saying that it should rotate, kind of like in Nigeria, because of the whole thing. There's an understanding that the presidency will go from north to south to north to south. We're expecting that the next president of Nigeria, for example, will come from the north. So there's an
even in Tanzania.
There's that kind of understanding.
There's an
unwritten rule.
Yes.
So
Muslim,
from the
Christian.
Right. So from the AU chairmanship position, now there is an understanding that it would go to East Africa.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And it is and they are all agreed on that. I mean, the African heads of state have agreed on that.
Okay, the African heads of state have agreed on that. That's interesting.
Very.
Then why would it be that there seems to be then so
contest.
much? Yeah.
Why is it a
If
contest?
it's
The
an
contest
agreed
now is
upon-
for East Africa now.
No, not really.
No, it's for East Africa because in Djibouti, is Madagascar, Mauritius,
That's
or
not
East Africa, and Kenya.
Oh, they're classified in
Yeah,
the East.
because the Somalia was also in the race, but is withdrawn in favor of Kenya.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, it's all East Africa.
Mauritius, Madagascar, and
Djibouti.
Djibouti are all classified in the East.
They are all East
In the East,
Africa.
yeah.
Oh, so that's why it's in the East.
Even Ethiopia. Even Ethiopia is in the East.
All right.
Understandable.
Dismas, I'd like to get your thoughts about, where this all is in terms of sentiment, about, being pushed forward. Prof said a very interesting thing here, so that we can push for this thing, but there doesn't need to be so much fanfare. It doesn't need to be so, over the top. Push for the thing. If you get it, fantastic. But, use of state resources, doing all of this hullabaloo that we saw yesterday, making so much noise not necessary. No?
From a communication perspective or a marketing perspective, when you're launching a product, you don't do it in the cover of darkness. You invite the key stakeholders. And in my view, what happened yesterday at State House was a display. It was optical power for all and sundry to know that the East African community is behind Mr. Raila Odinga. So for me, I don't find anything wrong. I don't find any exaggeration, as our professor suggested. If I were the head of state and government in Kenya, I would have done the same. It's important to get your colleague heads of state to come and make those statements in public. That was the first observation. Then the second observation is that retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has not yet sent his message of goodwill, or he has not even indicated that he's supporting Mr. Raila Odinga. One would have expected that because he's peers with almost all the heads of state and government in Africa, he would actually offer his support. So his silence is very deafening. And then number three, some of the names that come up to be part of Mr. Raila Odinga's strategy team, they do not inspire confidence, because it's very clear, it must be very clear that Mr. Odinga is not running a campaign in Kenya, but he is running a continental campaign. So one would have expected that in his team, he's got subject matter experts from all over the region. That you have people from maybe West Africa, from South Africa, from Northern Africa. People can help him understand the different cultural dynamics. Like, for instance, if you want to approach the heads of state in North Africa, there's their way of doing things. They've got some sort of anthropology. If you want to do the same in South Africa, you need this kind of people. So, well, it's not late in the day. I'm hoping that he's going to reconstitute his team so that he can hit the high notes. If he assumes that he's running a normal campaign in Kenya, that your team is made up of people who may not have demonstrated capacity and competence in expected subjects, then the outcome will disappoint Kenya and the region.
I think he has the team. He has Obasanjo from Nigeria for West Africa.
I don't know that Obasanjo represents the whole of West Africa, especially seeing as things happened in the way in which they have over the last few months.
No, the West African groups and ECOWAS. So Obasanjo, I think, is a big voice within the ECOWAS.
Well, again, we understand that...
then in South Africa, he has Ramaphosa for the Santak region, because Ramaphosa has already said he will support him. But I agree with you. I don't dispute what you are saying. So maybe in West Africa itself, not West Africa. I don't know which West Africa, because because it's Southern Santak includes Angola, and now Cameroon is in ECOWAS.
Yes, it is.
But Santak includes Angola. So West Africa is governed, Southern Africa is governed, East Africa we are here. So maybe Northern Africa, maybe Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco, that axis.
Yeah, but Professor, outside General Obasanjo and President Ramaphosa, I'm talking about the technical teams, the one who actually do the heavy lifting, the one who prepare the briefs, and who would probably confirm. The conversation is that General Obasanjo and President Tinubu enjoy a frosty relationship. Then a few days ago, President Ombaso had a cup of tea with the First Lady. Again, there were conversations. So nobody's sure of the relationship between General Obasanjo and the President, and also the neighboring community. But I'm not worried about the big boys, for lack of a better word. I'm looking at the people who do the actual documents. Some people in that team, they create the impression that if they land at an airport, say in Nigeria, the first thing they'll probably do is take a picture and post it on social media that we are now landed at a particular place. But I'm looking at somebody, social scientists. Like for instance, there are many Kenyans, if they tell you, if you haven't met Ken for a while, then he says, tuongee kwa simu. It doesn't mean anything. So you need people who really understand the local dynamics to assist you craft and execute a winning strategy.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but I suspect I'm right because I've interacted with people from all these different countries and the expectations are very brittle.
Okay. It's interesting how local politics can then now play out on a continental level, and maybe you can go into that. But I've seen an interesting comment, and somebody says, I think it's necessary for us to know what the map of Africa actually looks like. And I think that's very interesting because we thought that we know geographically where everything stands, right? North, south, east, and west. I think everybody needs to go back and look at your map. So that we can understand who we're talking about and who is where, because it's very, very important. And even when we have the geographical states of Africa, we still have barriers that are created by language and culture. Remember, Africa was divvied up by somebody who had no knowledge of what was going on.
Yeah, the Berlin Conference.
Okay? And that they cut across cultures which shared in huge landmass. Right? That's why you still have some of the things that you see in East Africa today where it's cut by a border, but people still share the same culture. And now why I say that is that in this whole AUC chairmanship, we cannot run away from the differences that language have posed in the areas of Francophone Africa and Anglophone Africa, because it is a big debate here that who will the other side support. So if you're in Senegal, you could be in ECOWAS, but you're still in Francophone Africa. And so which carries the day? If you're in Côte d'Ivoire, you are in ECOWAS, but you're in Francophone Africa. If you are in
Mozambique,
exactly. If you're in Mozambique, yes, you're in Southern Africa, but you're in Lusophone Africa. So, does language have a place to play? And I've heard that it does in this selection of the AUC chair, that folks are looking for who will represent them on a broader basis. And does it have anything to do with this? And should it be paid any attention to?
I think it should. It shouldn't be paid attention, I think. That is because, you see, when you are the chair of that commission is the implementing agency of the African Union. It is like what? You see, you have the African Union, then you have the executive commission to implement the decisions of the African Union, and therefore for somebody holding that position, because that's the work, that is the horse, what is it called in language, my friend, the workhorse of the union.
Secretariat.
Yeah, the secretariat is the workhorse of the union. So you need to understand a lot of those dynamics. I agree with you, because without understanding those dynamics, it becomes complicated. And that's why I think you said something very important. The local issues would play a big undermine. For example, we've been much happier if we would have been neutral in the war going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Because you see, Muslims, for example, as a religion, is very strong brotherhood. It has a very strong brotherhood concept, very strong. We could have been a little bit more conscious about that. The Christianity is not so much. I think it's because we don't really believe in it in Africa. We just pretend. We are not like the Muslim. We don't live the religion here. I know that could surprise many, but that is actually the truth. I look at Meru, where I come from. You do something there. You go to court, you swear with the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, you put it down, you lie, you go home. When you go home, we take you to Nyorinchege, we take you to a party, we give you a small stick, which everybody is working on. We tell you, put this one inside here, if you are telling the truth, and say that if I'm lying,
Let it boil.
Myself and everyone related to me should go in this pot with this stick. You say, no, I lied. So you make yourself the judge because that one is tied to you. That is inside you. So Christianity has never been inside us, but the other one is very strongly inside the people. So that need to become, if I was campaigning for Raila, like he said, you are a communication expert, I think. I'm beginning to grasp what you are saying here. Then I will delve into those things and I'll try to see how do I massage some of those. Yes, some of the toes which we may have stepped on over time.
Okay. It has taken Kenya really by storm, this thing, and maybe a little bit of a storm, but still a storm, whereby suddenly now that is the conversation. Let's bring it local, this AUC chairmanship, okay? This is an individual who, for the longest time, has been in the opposition in terms of politics in the country, and has maybe, unfortunately, and has been an arch rival, arch enemy of those who have been in power. Because unfortunately, to date, he has not been. Suddenly, we see all this support rallied around him. And I know the conversations of, okay, is the opposition dead? Did we see all of these things happen so that the chairmanship could get a boost, But suddenly we see state resources, state attention, everybody paying attention to this thing and saying, okay, you know what? Here's an opportunity to put Kenya on the map. Is it an opportunity to put Kenya on the map, or is it an opportunity to take this person who has been insisting that you do 1, 2, 3 out of the picture?
Well, in my view, in as much as Mr. Odinga has not had state power, one can easily say or come to the conclusion that he's been one of the most powerful men in Kenya, with or without, state power, from the time he took over management of political parties like NDP. You recall at some stage you were told that Mr. Raila Odinga is probably the only man in Kenya who can declare a public holiday outside an official Kenya Gazette. So he's been a very powerful man. And in my view, any Kenyan who is looking for an international assignment should be supported by the state to the hilt. And the President of the Republic of Kenya has got a constitutional, moral, and economic responsibility to support anybody who is looking for an international assignment. And if you compare Kenya to other countries in, especially the Western Africa, there are very few Kenyans comparatively holding senior roles in these bodies like the UN, World Bank, IMF, even in the corporate world, for several reasons that are maybe. When we were brought up, you speak your mother tongue, Sheng, English, and Kiswahili. So majority of Kenya don't speak another language, say French or Germany, which can create opportunities. Maybe we need to look at our legal framework and ensure that outside the languages we speak, people can speak other languages, so we create opportunities for them. So if there's any Kenyan who is looking for an international assignment, I think they must be supported. And in as much as we say that we need to create opportunities in Kenya first, with globalization, you can pretty much work anywhere. So if Mr. Raila is interested in this opportunity, the fact that he's had a high octane competition with all these leaders does not mean that then he takes President Ruto takes a back seat and tells him that you're on your own. But again, Raila has faced a lot of criticism that when Kenya needs you, now you are taking a walk. The political situation in Kenya demands that you be around. We want to have a conversation with you in 2027. But when you revisit the works of Adam Smith, he says human beings are supposed to be rational human beings, and they pursue their selfish interest. Mr. Odinga has wanted to be president from the time he was born. You've not given him the opportunity. Maybe his selfish interests have indicated, now go to the Africa Union, let him go. If there's a vacuum to be created in Kenya, you have many people. Kalonzo yesterday declared himself as the opposition leader. He must now demonstrate the killer instinct that he wants to become an opposition leader who can give President Ruto effective opposition, or rather a run in 2027. And also his exit is very good, because when you talk about ODM and Mr. Raila Odinga, understand their synonyms. So is the glue holding ODM together. So right now there are people who are very excited that his exit from active ODM politics is actually going to make the D in ODM come to reality. That ODM now, for the first time, is going to be a democratic party. There are people who will have free, fair, credible elections, and then you'll have people coming up. So, which is a good thing. So, in my view, the people are saying, wait a minute, Mr. Odinga, this is when we need you. He's requested for your votes times above number. You've not given him the opportunity. Let him go elsewhere. President Museveni indicated yesterday that this thing is not about career progression. Mr. Raila Odinga has been a Pan-Africanist, and I've had the occasion of sitting, in his proximity. When he talks about Pan-Africanism, you can see the energy coming out of his face. You can see the emotion.
It's genuine.
And you can see that he's genuine.
Okay.
So as he turns 80, let him go and deliver on the African, the African agenda. Although, again, probability of him being a success under the circumstances is just 50%.
Well, let's talk about that when we come back from this break, because Prof is already smiling and CT has TP'd his nose, so he has thoughts. Okay, 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Conversation continues right after this break. Don't go away.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hi everyone, you may have heard about the Cradle Study Abroad Fair happening this month on August 31st. Can you tell us what students can expect?
UE is a state-accredited university based in Germany with a campus in Dubai. We offer state-accredited and cutting-edge programs in business, technology, media, psychology and sports. And you are looking to interact with our curriculum, being that it is project-based, heavy on practice, and you'll be looking to interact with lots of industry leaders in Germany and Dubai. And as a bachelor student, you're also looking to complete a mandatory 6-month internship.
That sounds fantastic. So everyone make sure to visit the Cradle World Fair at the Galana Mall Parklands on August 31st. Make sure to register by visiting www.cradle.com or call 0799 000 444.
You know that feeling where there's a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to... But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 14 degrees. We'll see highs of 23 and we'll see highs of 24 in a sunny Nakuru at 16. It's 15 and sunny in Nyeri, going to highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 25 in a sunny Eldoret at 17. It's 26 and sunny in Mombasa. We'll see highs of 29 and highs of 29 in a partly sunny Malindi. 24 and sunny in Kisumu with highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's 19 and sunny. Kampala at 22, sunny, highs of 29, and at 25, Dar es Salaam is sunny, going to highs of 29. Johannesburg sunny at 13 with highs of 25, and we're looking into a sunny Mogadishu at 26, going to highs of 30. Addis Ababa is cloudy at 15, highs of 20, and Lagos at 24 is cloudy with highs of 29, and looking into a mostly sunny Kinshasa at 20 with highs of 33 and lows of 20.
Sugar and spice and everything
Spice up your life.
Okay, hasn't been too crazy this morning. We're looking at traffic coming off the Thika Superhighway well beyond Survey now, and then getting through towards the Pangani Tunnel. Just a little bit of craziness there continues, but the CBD is taking in quite some. We know that folks are traversing the country trying to get in and out, going where they're going because of school opening. Jogo Road in and outbound traffic is also quite something right now, as is Landis. Lusaka taking off some of that. And now looking on the other side of things, Langata Road is then pushing traffic out through towards Aerodrome, towards Raila Odinga Way, and then out onto Uhuru Highway. So if you're getting into the city around this time, Uhuru Highway is going to be very busy, and it's in and outbound. And coming out of Westlands, I think we'll be okay for the most part, but we're looking at Waiaki Way coming through towards Chiromo, and quite some traffic here as well. And Lower Kabete coming in, Spring Valley and all of that. We've got a little bit of that touching on Limuru Road eventually, but it's all in stride. Folks, let's talk. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. This is the Situation Room.
All the King's men are here, and we're discussing issues having to do with the AUC chairmanship and what it actually means for the continent, or does it? You know, we're talking about that it's important. What does it do? What does it mean for Kenya if Kenya is actually, or the person from Kenya sits in that position? Ken, I know you had a question. Even as we get to that, what does it mean if a Kenyan is sitting in the position of the AUC chair? What does that mean? Does it raise the profile of the country? Does it make now Kenya more respected on the continent?
Before I even ask that question, I'd like to bring to your attention, gentlemen, the opinion page of all the newspapers today. And it's all about what happened yesterday. This, as Standard puts it, unleashing Raila Odinga. So the cartoonists have captured this as good riddance for President William Ruto. And my question this morning is, has Raila Odinga once again used this to sort out his 2027 political problem? Before we even go to what this brings to Kenya or means.
Before answering that, I want to discount something, misconception we have in this country about opposition. Because we are just saying that, Raila is being, good renders because supposed to be in the opposition. Raila was in the opposition before multi-party, before 1992. After that, Raila has been in every government in Kenya since that time. So the idea of the opposition has always come from. Now, this is the opposition, the way you see it, like in the US, when the Democratic Party loses the election of the Republican, they stay there and they wait for the next election. They don't join government in any form. So in Kenya, our concept of opposition is like one of a prison, where we are fighting who is going to be the chief prison warder, but not somebody who is about to break the prison walls so that everybody is free. Now, because we are fighting to be who is going to be the chief warden, it doesn't matter whether you are in the government or you are not, because you're not going to make any difference. Now, to address your question, because you're asking whether it's good riddance, or whether Raila is setting the stage for 22. I actually don't think so.
If Ruto is sorting out his political problem in 2027,
I don't think that will sort the problem if Raila goes over there, because Ruto's problem is not Raila Odinga. Ruto's problem is the Kenyan economy. If you don't sort out the Kenyan economy, you can send Raila to America, you can send them to AU. It's not going to make any difference on how the 2027 works out. You see, that idea of tribal positioning, is gone. It's absolutely gone. Because we have this Kebaken generation, the generation you see, and I'm calling it the Kebaken generation, because these are the most educated Kenyans ever. They came, access free education from Mwai Kibaki. 100% transition from primary to secondary, Mwai Kibaki. Expansion of university and the introduction of the parallel program, meaning in 99% of these youngsters access university education. These people are tribal. When they tell you they are tribalists, they actually mean it. So when you dissolve the tribe, it's irrelevant whether Raila goes or you think Ruto will inherit Raila as a constituency. This time is a totally different ballgame. William Ruto needs to understand his problem if he's going to seek re-election 2027. His problem is the economy.
There's another...
It's not Raila Odinga.
There's another perspective. Mr. Raila said that he's exporting top talent to join the Kenya Kwanza cabinet. So he sent a number of his party leaders to join the administration. And then there was a mandamano. There were the protests all over the country. Some folks were interviewed in Kisumu because there were no protests. They said, why should we do the mandamano if Raila has sent his people to the administration? Sasa tuko serikali, patia Raila muda na rais muda wafanye kazi yao. So in as much as we may want to take comfort in the theoretical aspects that tribalism in Kenya has been dismantled, maybe it's to a very small percentage. Because soon after these gentlemen and a lady joined the administration, there was part of his powerful supporters indicated, we are now going to give you time. President Ruto is right now planning to visit parts of Nyanza province where I come from, and understand everybody is rolling out a red carpet simply because of Mr. Raila Odinga. If Raila Odinga today decides at the flick of his fingers to change his position, those red carpets will be rolled back. So in theory, there's no tribalism in Kenya right from 1963. People vote with their selfish interest in mind. But even the middle class in Kenya, when you approach elections, they recline to their tribal cocoons. And this is something that President Museveni spoke about yesterday. That what are you going to benefit from your tribe? But you notice all the powerful political persons in Kenya, before you rise to the national table, first of all, you have to be a tribal chief and a tribal god. You mobilize your people, and you hear people talking of Mulima or Murima, all these kind of things, because people know that in Kenya, most of the time is about your second name. Even look at the political party formation.
You say this as though what you're saying is a bad thing.
No, I'm just trying to push back on what professors indicated, that from the next election, it's just going to be
dynamics change.
Yeah, the variables have changed, and also about the economy. Even when the economy is bleeding, when the rubber is meeting the road, people go back to their tribal cocoons or cocaines.
I think go with cocoons.
Is that what the professor actually said?
No, that's not what I said.
That's not what he said.
But also Muga is a way of here. You're not being a good student of history. Okay. You have just forgotten the history of yesterday. William Ruto comes here with an Azola narrative which transcends the tribe, and he conducts an election like 1963 without involving the tribe. So it's not true that we are eternally tied to our tribe. You see, the fact that Njom became the minister, that child in Mombasa who didn't have a job, that child still does not have a job. That family that could not put the food on the table, they still cannot put the food on the people are not stupid. They have woken up. Trust in me. Kenyans have woken up. They know that when you get the job, it's for you and your family. Okay? If you can work for us and change the economy and put the money in my pocket, then I'm for you. So Ruto proved that the tribe is irrelevant in an election if you have a cross-cutting theme that you zero to the Kenyans. It will dissolve the tribe. Ruto dissolved the tribe in the last election.
Just allow me to push back. It's important to look at the substance and then to look at the form. If you analyze the voting patterns for the last elections, how come the president didn't get, President Ruto did not get, say, 50% of the Luo votes? Because if people are just voting on philosophies, whether you're on the left, whether you're on the right, whether you're talking about inflation, the jobs created, like the conversation we see in the US, how come even for instance, how come he decided to elect, or rather select, the way they say, the running mate from, say, Central Province, and not Kisii or not Giriama, if the only consideration was about economics and it was about Pesa Mfukoni? Everything we are discussing here, in theory, there's no tribalism in Kenya. All of us look at inflation and the jobs are created. But when you look at the substance of a form,
I'd like to answer you on that one. William Ruto didn't have to select Gachagua as a running mate to win the vote of the Mount Kenya region. He didn't have.
Really?
He had made himself a brand. Okay, with the Azola narrative. He had made himself a brand. So I don't think he got the Mount Kenya vote because Gachagua was in that ticket. Most people who voted for William Ruto across this country, they voted because for the first time in the history of Kenya, they saw in him someone who can address their personal problems, which was from 1963, we have been manufacturing poverty. Okay, we have manufactured the poverty. From 1963, we never had a Kenyan government. We only had an extension of the colonial state. You see, government has its own consciousness, just like an individual. So the consciousness of the government of Kenya has been exploitative. There has been a government for exploiting Kenyans. So Kibaki comes and briefly gives us a Kenyan government. We saw it in Kibaki. And then Uhuru comes and goes back to exploitation. So people in Ruto, when he talked about uplifting the life of this Mama Mboga, and this, people saw a president who is going to be a Kenyan, maybe Kibaki style better than Kibaki. I mean, they went for that and they forgot the tribe.
How many votes did Mr. Raila Odinga get from central Kenya?
That one.
Well, we are assuming that there's no
marketed himself very well. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, how many votes did President Ruto get from Luo Nyanza?
I assume the same answer that Prof gave would be the same thing here. But if we're rooting this conversation and just bring it back to where we are today and looking at the reasons as to why we're now having a conversation of putting Raila Odinga at that seat on a continental level and what it means for Kenya today. And I'm still coming back to that question. What does it mean?
Actually, it does mean a lot, trust me, because that is the executing agency for AU, and there is a lot of planning going on at the Commission.
Is there?
Yes, there's quite a bit of developmental planning going on. You know, there is track roads, which are supposed to traverse the continent. Infrastructure projects, sometimes they are planned there, which connect the states. Trained, okay? We are not managing our resources very well as a continent. There is too much of exploitation by the foreigners. Raila Odinga, with his Pan-Africans, he could put his foot down there and develop a continental-wide policy, which now also would include quite a bit of include Kenya. But also some project which come to AU. I don't want to say that, but I guess I'm just going to say it. Being there, you could throw them to Kenya. So and
that is where we are.
So there's some benefit for a Kenyan holding that position. Muga saying that we are not well represented in international bodies. The reason for that is because we don't have our people, a lot of our people in the international bodies.
That's just destabilize what the AU is about in the very first place. Because if we look at the origins of, and it was essentially the OAU, which is the Organization for African Unity, right? Before then, it now morphed into what it is today. And there are many, very many adjectives that have been used to describe the AU. One of them, which I myself have used on occasion, toothless, powerless, in terms of what it's been able to do to actually bring together African states and get them to move as one unified body. I don't know that since the 60s when, rest his soul, Gaddafi, and you can say whatever you want, had an idea. And he said, you know what? We can actually probably forge on better together because we have the resources, we have the numbers, we have the people. Today, when we look at the AU, are we seeing that has actually been done? And it is very important that we ask the question, because if you're looking at it from a Kenyan perspective, are you sending a man to the AU? He could win, he may not win, but are you sending a man to an organization who for the last 20 years, in many opinion, have actually not been able to bring forth the tenets of African unity that it was originally designed to do?
President Kagame was in charge of, he was given the responsibility by his peers to come up with reforms to reform the institution. So a number of proposals were made. But what the committee found out, which did not even need to do without any research, that as constituted today, the African Union is inefficient and it's ineffective. And it said that the only thing they do is clerical duties. Because they don't have financial autonomy, they have to rely on contributions, which most of the time are voluntary, or you wait for China or the US to give you resources. And then number two, even when you are the chairman of the African Union Commission, you still don't have absolute powers, for lack of a better word, to appoint your staff. The member states will determine who is going to be your deputy, who are going to be the commissioners, who are going to be the directors. So you can't even hold them accountable. So if the reforms as initiated by President Kagame and right now with President Ruto, if they are not effected, Mr. Raila Odinga will have to rely on his persuasion skills for anything to happen. And unlike, say, in the European Union, where there's a bit of autonomy, financial, operational, for Mr. Raila Odinga, even at some stage he may not have a budget for his international travel if there are no member contributions and if the development partners do not come on board. And while doing research for the show, the figures are just amazing. For instance, the European Union, with their member states, about 27, they've got 32,000 staffers full-time, and that is excluding people on short-term contracts. While the African Union, taking care of 55 countries, has got 1,720 as the beginning of the year, and most of them are on short-term contracts. So they go to meetings, they prepare amazing reports, but those reports have to wait for validation and direction by the presidents, and these presidents do not want to give African Union any power. Now, if you compare it to the European Union, their contributions are made every country contributes based on a proportional wealth of the nation. So it's an income determined by proportional wealth. And then the European Union levies custom duties for imports from outside the EU, and then a bit of VAT from all the member states. So actually, they've got some financial resources. The same situation does not obtain for Africa Union.
How long is this tenure that we've been talking about?
It is 4 years, renewable ones. But I want to say this. I think, you are really right, because we never really had a strong chair of that commission. And I think Raila is fairly strong. I think given Raila is independent, you see, institutions are changed by people who are in them. It is the people who change the institutions. So if you get somebody, Raila is a fairly an independent-minded person, and I actually think he can be a perfect Pan-African if he enters there. If he were to enter, he could change all these dynamics. You see, our problem is we don't have Africans as presidents. Okay? We have all these Mijungu lackeys. Some of them selected by the Mijungu. Because when you get an African like this young man from Burkina Faso, and you make him the chairman of AU, things will move. You will make people even contribute, because they can see now what they are doing. They can be inspired. You understand? So if Raila goes there, he can become a real Pan-Africanist, this man, and change the African Union, and probably move them towards proper unity, because this continent is worthy. We just allow ourselves to be used by the Mijungu, and even the Mijungu select our leaders. So for me, I think Kenya need to do everything it has to get Raila there.
Okay. There's something that a question I want to pose to Professor. Human beings react on two things: the pain or a pleasure principle. Now, tell me what pain or pleasure the chairman of the African Union Commission can inject to African heads of state and governments to follow a particular direction.
No, you don't need pain or pleasure. What you need is persuasive skills.
Yeah, but persuasion can be painful or pleasure.
Is ability to explain the position, to explain our position. You see, Raila talked about our gold, he talked about our minerals, he talked about all this world being squandered as it is right now. So if he can convince them it is in our best interest, okay, I saw a huge, I think you people have seen in the media, a 28-kilometer Chinese lorry is carrying sand from Zimbabwe. It's not sand they are carrying. It's minerals they are taking to China. So if Raila is able to make the African Union pass resolutions, but all these things are processed within the continent, and he can do it. You see, Raila has the force. You can compare him with Mohamed Faki. Mohamed Faki maybe was just a diplomat. Raila has a very forceful character, which can remake the African Union. You know, our own have been chaotic, Matato, if you remember. But one person came and made a difference in Michoki, even though, of course, we are back to where he was. So it is individuals who make institutions. So Raila going to be the historical moment where he comes and he changes all what you are saying overnight. and we become Africans, and we start controlling our resources, and there's shortages. I mean, resource poverty that you are saying becomes a thing of the past.
Yeah, then you did also ask a question that I didn't get a chance to make my contribution.
Yes, please.
That what does it mean for Kenya? I'll go to India. At some stage, the president of the World Bank is said to be Indian. The Prime Minister of India is said to be Indian. And at some stage, the UK Prime Minister was Indian. Now, just imagine during international meetings, you've got three powerful personalities with the same sort of
Origin.
DNA.
Yeah.
Now, this is what we need for Kenya. We need to go all over the world, and so that when Raila Odinga is the chairman of the African Union Commission is going for a meeting, you have another Kenyan in a senior role and another Kenyan in a senior role, so that we now take decisions which are sensitive to our interests as Kenyans.
Okay, can I ask? Sorry, Sisi. I want to ask these two gentlemen if they will stay for further breakfast.
Please go ahead.
Can we keep you till 10 o'clock?
Yeah,
Let's continue, because I think the conversation still continue. And Siti will even give you the problem again. How about that for a good treat?
Yes.
Right?
The same one or a different one?
Well, I don't know. It's up to him. But today's proverb, and I know Siti's question is coming, and so we're going to start with that at top of the hour, because we're heading quickly towards 9 o'clock. The conversations continue. There's still a lot on how this then does affect what happens within the country. It'll continue. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
It's now 9 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Lau Ubaga. Immigration and Citizen Services Principal Secretary Julius Bitok has announced that the department cleared a backlog by printing 505,197 ID cards in the last 2 weeks. Of this, 162,856 are new, while 341 are duplicates. As of now, only 1,358 applications are pending in the routine processing queue. PS Big Talk explained that the Nairobi NRB resumed printing new and duplicate national ID cards after the High Court lifted a conservatory order that had temporarily barred the government from issuing the Maisha card. Nairobi County has the highest number of uncollected ID cards at 55,327, followed by Kiambu at 37,708, Nakuru 28,581. Other counties where people need to pick up their ID cards, Kisumu, where 18,529 people are yet to collect, Mombasa 17,140, Kisii 15,842, Muranga 13,627, Uasin Gishu 13,155, Kajiado 12,533, and Bungoma 12,053. The Anti-Corruption Court in Nairobi will today deliver judgment in a case where former Samburu Governor Moses Lenol Kulal is charged with graft amounting to 84 million Kenya shillings. Lenol Kulal was in 2019 charged with abuse of office and graft-related counts before the Milimani Anti-Corruption Magistrate Court. He was charged with 4 counts of abuse of office and conflict of interest, leading to the loss of the alleged 84 million Kenya shillings in public funds from the Samburu County government. Trans Nzoia County Health CC Samuel Juang has called on leaders to avoid politicizing matters of health. Ojwang has said that they should instead participate in dialogues with the leadership of the county to improve the health sector, as well as ensure KEMSA distributes medicines across health facilities on time.
Tunahimiza tu viongozi wetu wale wako wa national government wafuatilie kule kwa KEMSA kuhakikisha ya kwamba KEMSA inaleta madawa kwa wakati unatakikana. Na kwa vile waziri mwenyewe Dr. Dibora Baraza amejitolea kufanya kazi pamoja na Executive Governor George Natembea kuhakikisha ya kwamba services zinakuwa sawa, tungekuwa tunatarajia kwamba viongozi wetu washukuru the president na wasupport the CS mpya ili aweze kufanya kazi pamoja na county government ya Trans Nzoia ili kazi ya huduma ikuwe mzuri. Hatukutarajia kwamba viongozi wetu hapa ambao daktari CS anatoka eneo zao wanapanga vile watamvuta chini.
Ojwang has further condemned those who criticized the county governor George Natembea for transferring health services from level 4 hospital in Kitale to Kijana Wamalwa Referral Hospital.
Huduma ya afya inaendelea katika hospitali hii. Tangia sisi tutoke Kitale County Referral Hospital tukileta huduma hapa katika Wamalwa Kijana County Referral Hospital ambao imegharimu zaidi ya bilioni 1 kujengwa. Na kutokana na hekima ya gavana wetu, liona ya kwamba pesa hizi ambazo umma imetoa kuweka katika mijengo hii, lazima hii hospitali iwe hospitali inayofanya kazi. Wamama wamepata nafasi bora ya kuweza kujifungua kwa njia ambao ni mzuri na kwa nafasi ambao ni better.
And finally, President William Ruto is set to launch key development projects as he begins a 4-day tour of opposition chief Raila Odinga's Nyanza region. The visit is loaded with political significance as it comes in the wake of a newfound relationship between the two former political arch-rivals. Ruto and Raila have struck a political deal that saw the opposition boss release his top lieutenants to join the cabinet. They include Treasury CS John Badi, who is former ODM chairman, and Energy CS Opiyo Ndai, who is the National Assembly minority leader. Ahead of the visit that starts today, Interior PS Raymond Omolo on Monday hosted all Luo MPs to agree on which will be the priority projects for the region and ensure the success of the tour. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Spice FM, Nairobi.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Benlow nintinte yeninter ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called a liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, a few minutes after 9 o'clock, let's take a look at what's happening with traffic in the city. Okay, it seems like towards the end of traffic hours when it has become really busy today and into the CBD, still coming off of Jogo Road. Landis Road is absolutely jam-packed now, and that spillover is coming also through towards Lusaka Road, so it's held up on Lusaka Road, and at that junction between the City Stadium roundabout and then going on to Landis is busy. Uhuru Highway, maybe some kilometers adjacent to that, very busy also getting into the CBD. Going to cross over towards Bunyala and then out towards Haile Selassie. That is busy as well. Thika Superhighway, as you're coming in from Survey, that's chock-a-blocked. It's bumper to bumper and it's going to go very slowly after you exit your service lanes. Waiyaki Way also busy. Some of that busyness on Uhuru Highway on the other side of things. Chiromo, Limuru Road coming in from Muthaiga. All of that is still doing the business right about now. Let's see what happens as we come towards the end of traffic hour, and we'll talk. Shan't we? SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock, and dealing with the conversation that continues to go in terms of what is happening locally and also what might soon happen on an international basis. I'll remind you, though, speaking internationally, where is it that you want to go to school? It is university season. It's open, and around the world, folks are making their way into the corridors of classrooms at that level. Where would you want to go? How would you go about it? What would you do? And you seem to ask these questions and there's nobody to answer. Well, Cradle understands that need, understands those frustrations, understands those challenges, and says, you know what, the time for when you would be scammed out of your hard-earned money or how you've not been given the right information has come to an end. And there's a culmination of all of these activities coming together in the Study Abroad World Fair that takes place on the 31st of August at the Gallant Mall in Parklands from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come there, meet different organizations in terms of universities from different countries, have a chat with them, say, this is what I want to do. This is where I would like to live for the 4 or 5 years of my university education. This is what I would like to study. And they say, okay, look, we'll take that and we'll match you to the perfect place. Because they've used technology to figure it out. They've also realized that they can use the best selection criteria to get you in the best institution. At the same place, on the same day, you can apply for scholarships. You can apply for admission and also get your admission on the same day, your housing and accommodation needs, as well as visit some visa officers who will be there. All of that to be done between 11 and 4 p.m. What do you need to do? Come by invite. How do you get the invitation? Register www.cradle.com or call 0799000444. All right, this conversation continues. I promised you a proverb. So treats for the hour. CT,
yes.
Tell us again.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the People's Republic of Algeria. A secret of two is soon a secret of nobody.
To be remembered, even as we get into this conversation, things that you may have said in the room where you thought nobody was there.
The walls had ears.
Exactly. Even if it is not you who had the ears, the walls had them. As we're coming to the top of the hour, CT, you had something that was burning something somewhere.
Well, it's something the professor mentioned that actually sparked a memory, and that is on the subject of history. We have a tendency of looking at certain standards that we have and comparing them with standards in the West. Mr. Mokoe was talking about the European Union. We in East Africa had a union whose formation began around 1917. And over time, before it became the East African Common Services in 1961 to 1967, not only did we have free movement of people, the currency was exchangeable on par. We had a common port services, common East African, we had a common university, it's called the University of East Africa. And Uganda was a campus, Dar es Salaam was a campus, Uganda, Kampala, Nairobi was a campus. And there are very many things that we look at the European Union and we say they've done well. I dare argue that they benchmarked with what we already had. Yes. Which brings me to my point. We sometimes do ourselves a disservice of not looking at the things that we do well and the things that we were way ahead.
Certainly.
You see, I never blame the West. I blame ourselves because we don't learn from them. They have the capacity to look after their interests. We don't. We seem willing to sacrifice the good of others and the good that could come to many of us for the selfish needs. And they pander on this and they work at it. So that whether it's our youthful population, whether it's our natural resources, the people who benefit the least from it is us.
I'll tell you why we do that. And, you see what happened here is the Mijungu came here and they found a perfect society which are the proper leadership structures. You see, leaders, what they can confer to society is leaders' love and commitment to society. So when the Mijungu came here, he engineered a revolution. You see, every society has an underclass. Okay? So here we also are under an underclass. Now, society is governed by something called collective consciousness. A society has a mind, as a whole, is governed by that mind. Now, the underclass usually has low consciousness. That is why the underclass is down there. So when the Mijungu came, the people who went to become Christians, who took the Mijungu culture, this was the underclass. It was not the African ruling class or governing class. So the underclass took education, became Christians or whatever. They took education. When now it was time to transfer to independence, these are the people who took power. These people had no capacity to love, because the capacity to love is created within that collective consciousness. So these are the Mobutu Sesekos. These are the Findro Mbakosas of Central Africa. These are the India means. And in a sense, the Jomo Kenyatta here, or even this fellow who came, the people of dubious background. So this problem now has continued to grow itself because they diluted that culture of giving yourself free to society, giving yourself in totality to society. In other words, transformational leadership that was cultured in Africa was converted to transactional leadership. Transactional means any decision the leader makes must benefit the leader. You don't make a decision for society. Before the Mijungu came here, we had no beggars. We had no homeless. In fact, the children belong to the community, so it didn't matter. If you didn't have anything, the children will still have milk. Yeah. They will still eat. You understand? So they came and turned society upside down, brought the underclass up. And I can tell you, look at the way the Njuri philosophy in conferring leadership, they don't give poor people leadership. And it's not that poor people are bad. It's because they understand the value of consciousness. Your poverty is in your mind. It's not in your pocket.
So because if you are in a position of poverty and we gave you a position of leadership,
you disrupt the society. Is to disrupt the society.
But I would have assumed.
Yeah, because you just work for yourself.
But Professor, I would have assumed that if you put somebody who, as you say, is poor, then you'd be providing what you call diversity. Remember, the whole principle.
I want this to sink. I want to explain this to sink.
All right, please proceed.
The poverty of anybody is actually in your mind. Is not in your pocket. Over time, the society and observed this. You know, we used to go steal cows from the Maasai. So you are desperately poor, but you produce a laingo, you to call laingo, as somebody, a serious warrior, who goes and collects all the cows and come and suddenly becomes rich, right? That person, if you give any leadership, if that person even go to Nyeri, wouldn't be accepted, but will not be given leadership because that person will disrupt society. They lack empathy. Over time, society has seen that those persons don't have empathy, they don't have kindness, they can't feel the pain of another person. They are still struggling to get out of poverty, even when they have everything. You understand? So if you analyze our leaders using that during Njeke philosophy, you will find that is what is driving them up to today. Because in fact, if it's during Njeke, which was electing the president for Kenya, even Uhuru Kenyatta would not have qualified. It's children who would have qualified. Because nobody knows who his father was.
Are you saying we did not know who Jomo Kenyatta was?
Jomo Kenyatta, I understand, I'm told, I don't know, that Muga was his uncle. So, we his father. But not that, not just that.
Okay, where are we going?
No. There's a whole conspiracy theory around what the professor is saying. But Prof,
yes.
back to the issue of the AUC Commission Chair. You see, I have tried to wrap my head around it, and I've actually wondered what the big fuss is about. Sincerely, I have wondered, because there's so much hype. There seems to be more hype for Raila than the commission itself. Because if I were to ask, who was the previous commission chair?
Faki Mohammed.
All right, yes, I know the name. Okay.
And there was no hype.
In fact, okay, and the one before him, who was it?
Nobody knows.
my point exactly. Then the other question is, okay, so in theory it's a secretariat. In practice, it's supposed to be a secretariat. But what do they actually do?
I'm with you on the hype. I said that it is actually extremely important to exhibit some degree of being humble, degree of not attaching too much importance, even if you think it is there, because hype too much puts some people off. Even the people we say they are proud, sometimes when they start speaking, we close our ears, even though we are still listening, because we object to bombastic in behavior. Naturally, human beings object to that. So I agree with you. The hype could work against that. And it's completely unnecessary. I don't think it is necessary.
You see, what I find even interesting, you see, for me, it's not, the hype is an issue. Mr. Okoh talked at great length about tribalism. Again, I wonder why it is that when we speak of tribalism, we have a completely Western perspective of it, that is a bad thing. Since when? The simplest unity of any community is what we call a family. Now, that's where you're socialized. If you're socialized in town, you'll have the advantage of diversity because you'll meet other people from other communities. So there'll be a meeting of communities. Now, if my background, I happen to come from, say, Tharaka Nithi, okay? Surely, those will be my values.
Yes.
When I leave that geographical area and I probably get educated and mixed, then I will understand how other people work. But my affinity, because of my socialization and grounding, will be from that community. How can that possibly be bad?
It's not necessarily bad. Let's look at the first aspect about the hype. Inviting members of the East African community to come for this launch.
Endorsement.
Yeah, and deliver their endorsements in public. I don't see any hype, especially after a number of people in Kenya, and President Museveni spoke about it, that a young man came to my residence from Djibouti, we had a cup of tea, and we took photos. And then, some Kenyans said, wait a minute, President Museveni has done a run on us. So for him to come and make that endorsement in public, for me, I don't think that is a razzmatazz that we need to run away from. In any event, it was a quiet function at State House. And I suspect outside the formal launch, maybe there were several bilaterals, because I think the President Museveni said something about his eggs and milk and sugar facing challenges, from Uganda. So one hopes that it was sorted out. And then when you talk about tribalism, there's obviously the positivity about tribalism, and then the negativity is associated with tribalism. So the challenge would be about the negative tribalism.
Give an example of negative tribalism, so that I understand you.
You see now, like for me, I come from the Kisi Nation. I said to be proud. And wherever I get the opportunity, I go to the top of Mount Kenya and proclaim that.
Okay.
In fact, some people who think that I speak good English.
Well, you don't have mountains in Kisi.
You have to go to Mount Kenya to proclaim.
We have here. We have here. Yeah. I'm even referred to as the Duke of Mosocho. But if, say, I'm today elected as if I'm appointed today as the Minister for Roads, and then I've got the yam and the knife, as they say in West Africa, then I say that 90% of this budget for roads is going to my village in Mosocho, that even a footpath to a cattle dip is going to have a tarmac at the expense of other productive areas. In Kenya, we've got places that are just waiting for a road. People talk about the sessional paper, Tomboya. They say that we are going to follow the railway line. So there are so many parts in Kenya which have not been opened up. Some people celebrate devolution simply because they say it's only after devolution that they saw a tarmac. They don't know what it is. So if I'm going to use my power position of influence to practice say nepotism or now that tribalism, assault chapter 6, assault article 10 of the Kenyan constitution, then that is negativity.
This issue, let's look at a tribe. A tribe is a composition of many family units. It's not just something amorphous. It's very distinct and very clear. And there are certain commonalities that are shared. That's why it's a tribe. The point I'm trying to make is this. If we do not look at the larger picture as to why people focus on the communities they come from, you will likely miss the point.
You see, I wanted to say that you are absolutely correct on this, that tribe by itself is a fantastic thing. Because even leaders emerging from that tribe, I want to argue that there is actually no tribalism in this country. What we confess as tribalism is self-seekers who now use the tribe, for their own personal benefit. But otherwise, if you really love your tribe, then you can also love us. Because we are cumulatively part of that tribe. So we don't have tribalism as such. When I was the commissioner at the National Cohesion and Integration, we did the research to find out whether we are actually driven when we make our decision by tribe. One of the things we used was what people do when they rent a place to live in Nairobi.
Yeah.
We're trying to check whether first, before you rent, you try to find who lives there.
Who is this person?
Yeah, who lives there, because you want to find whether your tribes live there. Nobody does that. People just go find an empty space and they rent.
Yes.
Why? Because we trust each other.
I think people do. I think people still do.
They check.
I think people do.
We buy and lunch when we did that research. We didn't find that. And in fact, it shows that in buy and lunch, we trust each other very well. When you look in the university also where I teach, when you have these young people in the classroom, they said, if you just isolate like 50, and they try to find now that congregation where they come, which in different, they said Upper Hasandinle. They are not trying to find who is my neighbor.
But they have unions in the universities.
Exactly. Who that represent them.
Christian Union.
That's why I'm saying. You don't pay attention. That's why I'm saying those are not supposed to promote tribalism. What they are is cultural identity.
Yes.
And even the constitution recognizes that. Yes. This is why they say you need to promote your language. Because the language puts you together. We have exaggerated the tribal impact in this country. It is not there. Trust me. We trust each other to a very, very large extent as a people. So tribalism, the Mijungu trying to use that to separate us. Okay? And then we are stuck to it because we have produced leaders who are extremely selfish, and to support themselves, they use a few of the members of their community, not the majority of them, because if they use the majority of them, in order to also extend it to us. So that has put us down at that level, and that's why I'm arguing that the new generation, taking Ruto as the example of the Asola movement, which to a large extent dismantled the tribal voting in this country, we may never actually go back to where...
Not may, we will not go back.
Yeah.
That's the thing about change. Change isn't welcomed by drums. There may be drama, but that's not the
celebration.
No, that is a manifestation of what has already taken place. Exactly. It's like an aftermath, but that's what we focus on. You see, the assurance that other communities look for when they're looking for a national leader is a confirmation of that person's backyard.
Yeah.
The people who know you, if they support you, then people feel, if his people support him, then there's a likelihood we can trust him to also look after our interest. It's not complicated.
Correct.
So in the same way, if you look at the personality of Raila Odinga, however it is that someone wants to describe him, he's not somebody you can ignore.
No, you can't.
Okay.
Ignore him at your own peril.
Yes. Now, he is a power. Not a powerhouse, he's a power. Now, and why? It's in Kenya. We see it. But remember, there's an interesting thing about leadership. And this is what, in my opinion, Raila's position has proved. You don't need an official title.
But you don't. Exactly.
To be a leader.
Yeah,
To be a leader
you don't
in
need an
this
official title. Raila has always been a leader, whether in government or not.
Can we ask this question then?
Yeah.
That it would seem, and I'm not even saying what it would seem, we have heard over the last couple of weeks what people have said. They feel let down because in this position where Raila Odinga is currently, people have felt that he was the voice, or at least he was the unifying voice in the opposition. And that now that he is in a relationship, married, handcuffed to the government, to the executive at this point, that they lose the perks of that position that he held. They did do you yesterday. Yesterday at State House they did.
It's a makeup.
No.
It's a makeup.
No. Hang on. In order to okay, it's possible that now they've taken the relationship to the next level. It's possible. But yesterday it was very clear. We heard do you I do. Like I said, you may kiss the bride and then we move. But then people feel as though they've been let down. Who's going to be their voice? Who's going to be that unifying factor?
You can ask your question.
You can.
I've heard this said on many occasions.
You have, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and the thing that I ask myself is, when did Kenyans decide that the role Raila Odinga can play in this country is that of being in the opposition?
Let me buttress your question. In physics, we are told that a vacuum shall not exist. And can you sound surprised that you didn't study physics? So a vacuum shall not exist.
Nature has a vacuum.
Yeah.
Nature has a vacuum.
No, of course I'm kidding.
No, actually, you're right.
You didn't study physics?
No, you're wrong. Nature has a vacuum.
Yes.
Now, so in the event that the Right Honourable Raila Odinga, using the right honorifics, becomes the AUC chair, and then his new role is not compatible with local politics, then there shall be a vacuum. So one would expect a senior personality. It could be from the remnants of Azimio, it could be from UDA, it could be from anywhere, to come and fill the vacuum. Because, people have complained for the longest time, and we even say this, that he has deliberately suffocated talent. Now that he's stepping out, somebody should come up and fill that vacuum. In fact, the people who are complaining should be doing press-ups and saying Hail Mary, and saying now that Raila, because we are not told it's not career progression, let other people emerge and fill that vacuum.
Okay. Now, let me put this as simply as I possibly can. I think there is a leadership vacuum, whether Raila goes to AU or not, or stays here.
Leadership vacuum of what nature?
Why do I say that? You see, one of the greatest achievements of William Ruto's campaign was to bring what is called class consciousness in the mind of Kenyans. Now, by as me or somehow collaborating with William Ruto after the Gen Z demonstrations, solidifies the belief in class consciousness within these young people. Okay? And that means they are going to work to try to abstain that arrangement. Okay? They are quietly going to try to work to abstain that arrangement. You see, we may naively think that the law that now we are experiencing is actually the end of these fellows. What happens in all revolutions is that there is always highs and lows. The low is where the grievance, which drove you to want to fill that vacuum, persists. When the grievance that persists, where does it go? It persists in your home, persists in the school, persists in the shamba, persists in the manyata. When it wakes up, it may be woken up by something completely unrelated with that grievance. Around the accident, something said by somebody in the system so obnoxious that it simply fires, it simply wakes everybody up. Because you have to notice that the problem with what triggered those demonstrations actually had very little to do with the finance bill. Finance bill was merely a trigger. It had to do with the economic situation, which the Kenyans, so the grievances were launched. Now, those grievances have not been addressed, and therefore, the leadership vacuum exists.
It still exists.
It still exists.
It still exists. Okay, let's take a break on that point because it's very interesting. Where we're saying that we suddenly saw a flurry of activity after the finance bill protests, and we thought that, okay, whatever is happening, cabinet dissolved, boom, that something else was coming in to deal with the issues. It didn't happen. what we saw was, what did you call it? Rural show then took place, and that something totally different is what was being addressed. And then people were still left wondering, okay, what just happened?
So the Gen Z.
And then now we're having a discussion about launching Raila Odinga into this bidding for this position of the AUC, and everybody is still sitting and wondering, what just happened? We've come out of a month of protests. We've come out of a month of asking for change. We've asked for accountability. We've asked for transparency. But it's almost as though somebody says, you go sit in that corner and let's deal with these other things that are important. 27 minutes to 10 o'clock. Conversation continues after this.
So everyone, make sure to visit the Cradle World Fair at the Galana Mall Parklands on August 31st. Make sure to register by visiting www.cradle.com or call 0799 000 444.
You know that feeling where there's a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to... But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label
Are
before
you ready
use.
to unleash your creativity and dive into the dynamic world of media? Then listen up. At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are redefining the rules of the game. With our Media Mastery course, you'll embark on a journey that goes beyond the ordinary. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, our curriculum is designed to equip you with the skills needed to thrive in today's media landscape. But we are not just about theory, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, SpiceFM, and the Standard newspaper, you'll have unparalleled access to industry expertise and real-world opportunities. So, if you're ready to turn your passion into profit, join us at Standard Talanta Academy and unlock your full potential. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
But it's on what it does.
I don't think it's deliberate.
24 minutes left in this conversation, and it's been an interesting one, even as we come back. And I just wanted to push off that point, is that here we are launched into a different realm now. It's not possible that you had boiler situation in the country for 1.5 months, and then we come back, and now we're eating cake as though it didn't matter. We've rolled out the red carpet, and now we're focusing on something else. Cabinet dissolved, everybody brought back, advisors being appointed, issues have not been dealt with. So it's as though you have icing on the cake, but inside is a rotten mess. And surely the question must be asked at an external level and even at an internal level, that what on earth is going on? And what would happen in a situation where those issues are not dealt with? And isn't that kind of escapist behavior whereby, okay, here's this nice shiny thing, let's play with it over here, and it just happens to be in the form of Raila Odinga for AUC chairmanship? That's something to divert our attention from these other things that should be dealt with in the country. Dismas?
Well, in my view, the Gen Z set Kenya in a trajectory that is you cannot reverse. It's moving forward, and many lessons learned. And any politician who doesn't take into active consideration of those lessons will have himself to blame. For instance, public participation is no longer going to be ceremonial and mechanical. I remember during my very first days as a journalist, when a Minister of Finance was doing public participation, we would go to KICC, we are served with teas and coffees, and then the people come, they do their presentation in economic jargon, and they say that is public participation. It's no longer going to be the case. They must be proactive. And then any policy which is going to come up in Kenya has to be Mora-centric. This policy has to serve Mora. If it's not serving Mora, then that is going to be a chapter in history books. And also the judiciary has demonstrated that they pay their fidelity to the Kenyan constitution. You could be a powerful political personality, they're not going to be intimidated. They're going to have their decisional independence and the institutional independence. But you ask a very valid question. I may not be able to use the right terms that you say there is a cake, inside it could be rotten, but now there is an icing, and everybody is now saying Hail Mary. That you have Mr. Raila Odinga, you said it's a Rurasho, so he's got a beautiful wedding dress, he's on his way to Addis Ababa. But Mr. Raila Odinga expressed his interest long before the Gen Z demonstration. Maybe the Gen Z demonstration were a catalyst, or they invigorated his candidature. And from a purely practical perspective, because I don't have capacity for theory like a professor does, the principal responsibility of a head of state or a head of a nation is to create, number one, political stability, number two, economic stability, and security stability. So the president may do a number of things that are, to the naked eye, they appear to be obscene. Like, for instance, one may ask, what is the purpose of an election if in Kenya you do an election and you're supposed to identify the winner? But if number two has got capacity to create any levels of instability, then as a head of state, it's incumbent on you to make sure that you play with the variables. But still, at the end of the day, as they say in the West, the elephant in the room is this little matter of employment and wealth creation. Because Mora back in the village goes to a farm every day to pick a tea or a coffee, but she does not feel the impact of that resource. So Mora wants to have the opportunity to have a disposable income that, after toiling in her shamba the entire day, in the evening when she goes back home, she's not worried about paying fees, whether or not the kids are going to get help. Those are the basic things. What in the US they call kitchen table conversations. And that one is very urgent. And then an entirely related but a different aspect, you'll notice during the vetting process, and I don't know whether it's a deceit in the Kenyan political space, you notice a gentleman by the name Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya. Before he was nominated, he would say, the Hustler Fund is unacceptable. But as soon as he joins the administration, he said, wait a minute. Now that I'm seated inside here, Hustler Fund is an amazing product.
In fact, pay your loans. Yeah.
Or if you don't, I'll come for you. The MP for Alego, a gentleman by the name Honorable Atandi, says, wait a minute. Government is only bad wakati uko nje. Lakini ukiingia ndani, serikali ni mzuri sana.
Because you're part of it.
Yeah.
Because you become part of it.
Then another gentleman comes in called Honorable John Mbadi. He says, in fact, the finance bill, a part of one or two clauses, was amazing. But why did you vote against it? Or why did you not even participate in the voting process? He says, I was following instructions from my party leader. So the biggest challenge for Kenyans, and we'll seek the advice of City Muga, is how do we immunize politics from this kind of deceit? Because if you don't do that, and we are talking about people with massive political following, at the flick of their fingers, they can cause instability in the nation. In my view, that is the elephant in the room.
How should it be dealt with?
I think...
sorry, because I'm going to go off on something you said, that if that leadership vacuum is not sorted out, if you're just, connecting some threads here,
yes.
If that leadership vacuum is not sorted out, forget about the external leadership and what you'll do for the continent. That's great. Okay. But if the leadership vacuum is not sorted out, it seems like it's going to implode.
It is, because I actually was surprised when this... when you appointed the cabinet. I wouldn't have expected, for example, Paranya to go to finance. because there are some Kenyans with real knowledge, but a lot of people don't know. Oparanya was the brain behind the vision in 2030. And I think Oparanya could have driven the finance ministry probably better. But in short, that's what I'm trying to say. I think the president got himself expert from ODM. He really did. If he can let them work. Because for me, the issue here, what is creating vacuum is this underperforming economy. You remember the only government other than which served the people of Kenya is actually the Nusu Mukate government. That government delivered. It delivered because it was a government of national unity. It had all the Kenyans there. But the more important, it had a lot of these people from Nyanza. These Kenyans, they think they have serious commitment.
Ken, are you from Nyanza?
They are less.
Ken, are you from Nyanza?
No, they are less.
Please let the professor continue.
Yes.
Yes. He's speaking.
They are less transactional. They are less transactional. They are more transformational. Okay? Now, an infusion of these fellows in significant number into the government could very well become now the catalyst for changing the trajectory and move towards improved economy. So what we need to do is to watch now whether they will be allowed, the people now, the few who have come in, whether they will actually be allowed to execute the mandate of that department. Nusu Mukate government worked because of those fellows. Because we have a weakness from the mountain. From the mountain, we are fairly transactional. You can see when the devolution came, we assumed the mountain region, the Mount Kenya region will fly because it has the stock of the most educated people in this country. But it is the worst performing because we are transactional. We just like fattening our own pocket more than the country. So those fellows are more transformational, and the more of them we can have in the government, in my opinion, the better.
Prof, there are two issues here. One, yes. I understand when I was still in school, there was a cabinet before the cabinet. And having said that, what I mean cabinet before cabinet is that there will be the real cabinet that will be meeting at 7 to 9. Then at 9, the other cabinet walks in, where the people you're talking about could be. So the president will still operate the way he's been operating. These people are just an addition. That's why you hope they'll be allowed to work. But there's an issue that emerged here yesterday, a potential fallout in this government. And someone said that if there's a fallout, Raila would do what he did in 1997, right? When he left with everyone else from Kanu. So there will be potential.
Why don't we look at it as everyone left with him?
With him, not him. but my question related to that is, do you foresee this government holding? Because having said what you're saying, there are two parties here, transactional and transformative.
Yes.
So these are totally different ideologies under one roof. So I'd like that answer. And the other thing that was raised by City that I just ventilate on it and you don't have to respond is the fact, why is there a hullabaloo about Raila's candidacy? Why is it that there's so much fuss about it? Because I'm looking back before Faki, there was a Dlamini Zuma, right? So Dlamini was replaced by Faki.
Yes.
Prime Minister, she was a minister in the husband's government, Minister for Women or something like that. Then comes the former Prime Minister of Chad, and then the former also Foreign Affairs Minister. Then here comes a candidate who has been running for president 5 times straight. Here comes a candidate who has been a prime minister. Faki was a prime minister for 2 years, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Only 2 years. So perhaps that is the reason why there's a fuss. You are up here. Why do you want to come down here? Because the council of ministers is still ahead of you, just operating. But my question majorly is based on this, the fallout. Do you see this cabinet, do you see this government holding on to the end of 2027? That's for the two of you.
Yes, I'll let Muku answer that one.
Let me start with the last one. Can you painted this picture that there is these high octane celebrations that Mr. Odinga is the talk of town about his position as the chairmanship? I look at it from 2 perspectives. For Mr. Raila Odinga, whether he talks or not, is a subject of national conversation. whether he does anything, whether he moves, whether he's latent, whether he's kinetic, people will always have a conversation with him. I remember when I was in the newsroom, if Mr. Raila Odinga doesn't speak for a week, journalists will still call him
and look for him to say
where
something.
are you?
Looking for headlines.
Mbona mzee umenyamaza? Then he'll say maybe I'm in a vacation in Italy. Then the page one story would be Raila takes a vacation. Yeah, because he's a very solid guy.
Yes.
In fact, some newsrooms that I'll not mention identified Mr. Raila as a revenue stream. That if you want to sell your newspaper
Headlines.
or you want to sell your content, Raila must be in the headline. And he's largely credited for having the regional editions. There are some headlines that if you put them in Kisumu, by the time the newspaper lands, it's already sold out. So they started having those kind of things. So that is why he's referred to as Enigma, Agwambo, all those kind of things. And then we have never had anybody from Kenya with the gravitas of Raila Odinga running for this position. I know you'll talk about Amina Mohammed.
Foreign affairs.
Yeah, but she did not have the gravitas of the Enigma. Maybe that's the reason why we didn't have all these conversations.
But everyone else who has run for this position is almost high equal in the position she held. Look at even Djibouti right now. Yes. Look at Madagascar. Look at Mauritius. All of them, even Mohamed Faki himself.
No, but there's a very high probability that when Mohamed Faki was running in his country, there was those octane celebrations.
I want you to understand. Is in that position Raila is seeking is actually below the Council of Ministers.
Yes, it is.
So can you address that?
Yeah. We spoke about it earlier on. That is referred to in management as optical power. You remember what Museveni said, that this is not about career progression, that you want to go and further your CV, and then the next time you go to maybe United Nations. Again, you would recall a gentleman by the name the late Mishuki. Whichever docket he was given, he became very, very powerful. So that even if he was made a minister without portfolio, he would still be a powerful man. Even the late Simon Nyachai, very powerful, a powerful personality. Even Professor spoke about this, that he dismissed the pain and pleasure principle and said that Raila Odinga, because he's a forceful man, he can actually go to the UN and move needles, although I don't understand how he'll be able to influence those heads of states. But all said and done, in my view, we must support any Kenyan to the hilt who is looking for an international role. So whether it means going to Mount Kenya or Mount Kilimanjaro, working on his CV. Actually understand that the document they prepared yesterday had typos, that brochure was not spelled right. So I'm wondering whether there was a challenge with political.
There's a question he asked you, you have not answered. There's a question he asked you have not answered. Whether the government will survive to 2027, in short.
Now, there's a gentleman by the name of Ombaso who indicated that if I offer my advice and they refuse to take it, I'm going to resign. But even before the ink dries, is that a very big homecoming ceremony in his village, where he's invited the entire community to come and dance about his new appointments. And that is the question I posed to City Muga, given his pool of wisdom, whether or not this is about a disease. And you also said that majority of these people who've gone to this administration, they're fattening their pockets. So if there's an opportunity to fasten their pockets, I don't know whether a disagreement. But again, trying to look at that crystal ball may result in disaster.
Let me tell you something. I marvel. Professor, first of all, thank you very much for those kind words. I actually come from the region that you spoke of so glowingly. There's only one proviso, though. If I look at the performance of the governors that region has had, that is Luo Nyanza, from the time we had devolution, I'm afraid
it's
the track record, it denotes the complete opposite of what you were saying. So I needed to put that right
at the national level. At the national level, people from Nyanza really perform. I mean, you have to look at Omboya, okay? You have to look at John Donde. John Donde came in here, even though it was like one term, And they changed everything. Moi was having a problem how to raise money. He told them you can force the banks to you can raise the reserve in the bank, and then one is the central bank, you just go and take that money.
so Professor, you
You understand? What I'm saying is that region has been able to produce very brilliant national leaders.
Okay.
But like all
but they
the
get
other
a crisis
areas,
at devolution.
yeah, in devolution, they are found just like us. I think the people have succeeded in devolution. The Ukambani, Oparanya did extremely well in Kakamega. He is one of the best performing governors.
Nyong'o
Okay?
is doing well.
And then, of course, Nyong'o is doing very well also. Then you have the Ukambani governors, all the three of them. Whether it's Mutua or Ongilo or Professor Kibwana, they have done very well. So the problem here is these so-called highly educated regions that we expected to do very well, they fell into the trap of corruption.
Okay. However, CT, there was a point you were trying to complete here, isn't it?
Yes. You see the question that Momokua refused to answer and asked me to answer. You see, to understand politics, you need to understand it as a unique subject that has unique indicators that you need to know before you can actually interpret and say this is what is going to happen. The politics of this country has one huge benefit. It's fluid, very, very fluid, and the very thing you think cannot happen will happen.
Exactly.
Okay. If you look at Jomo Kenyatta and you look at the plethora of people who were in leadership then, Jomo Kenyatta was not necessarily the best choice for president. There were other people. And keep continuing. There may be reasons why he became president. There may be reasons why Moi became president. There may be reasons why Kibaki became president. But if you look at it, these were very unlikely. They're almost accidental presidents. But that is what you would say if you don't understand what you call the role of chance.
In fact, if you ask me, there's this theory I've heard for some time.
Yes.
That Jaramogi Oginga Odinga is the author of the Kenya's misery. Because Jaramogi was a proper African now. He was not one of those people with dubious background. You see, indeed, something, a national hero, Jaramogi qualified to be a national hero. Because a national hero is somebody who does something so ordinary anyone would have done. He refused to take power so that Kenyatta can leave prison. If
Kenyatta, who was his senior.
Yes. If Jaramogi had taken power then, this country would have gone a totally different trajectory, would have increased our capacity to love one another, because it was his love for the struggle, his love for the country, which made him say that we cannot, with our freedom fighters in prison. We need them out. Ingrained person, so he was not ingrained. Now, that would have been the equivalent of Nyeri, who would have created strong cultural foundation in the country that would now be able for us to plant economic roots into. So I want to prophesy within the next 5 years, if we are not careful, Tanzania is going to bypass Kenya.
They've already bypassed.
Because Tanzania, Nyeri was able to create that strong cultural foundation. So Jaramogi did us huge disfavor.
By not taking the reins of power
then. That would have appointed Uhuru Kenyatta. Would also have appointed the other people who came later. He would have made us more Kenyan. He would have increased our capacity to love one another. Okay? Because you have to agree with me that we introduced extreme selfishness in management of public affairs.
Okay, I think we all need to try and placate Ken Mijungu this morning, because nobody has answered these questions.
Nobody. Which question is?
The question is, will things as they currently stand make it to 2027? We have 1 minute
But I
to
answered
go.
it. The fluidity of our politics is such that the only change has been what we call the Gen Zs. All right? Now, the truth of the matter is this. Will the government allow them to register in the numbers that they have? And the numbers that we already have, which are overwhelming, will they vote? And when they vote, do we know for certain how they will vote? So, to answer your question, the only change will be if the president makes a colossal boo-boo. if he makes a huge mistake that everybody can look at and can say, my goodness, now this one we can't live, that is when the government will not survive.
Otherwise, things will remain as they are.
Yes.
Yeah, probability is
100%. We are very conservative people. So, as a people, we are very conservative.
True.
We don't like to upset the
don't like making too much noise.
No, we don't.
We don't like to upset the apple cart.
Like your brother
we like
across the
to
pond.
be peaceful in our poverty.
Don't like to topple the apple cart. The next couple of months will be very interesting. I mean, our conversation has revolved around what happens with Raila Odinga and his bid for the AUC chairmanship, as well as, seeing what happens now with local politics and how things will, if change, metamorphosize over the next couple of months, if they do, without running away from the fact that the question remains for the majority of people in the country who are asking for accountability, who are asking for proper management, who are asking for true governance, and who are asking for transparency. That issue has not been dealt with. You can put up as many people as you want for the AUC chairmanship, but what remains at home, I think, really matters. It really matters. You have 10 seconds to say that thing you want to say, Mokua.
Yes, I just want to buttress the point that we've been talking about zero-based budgeting. If you adopt it, it would address 50% of the concerns you are raising.
Okay.
Zero-based budgeting.
It's got to be led by somebody, though. And the question is, who is that somebody?
Well, Mr. Mbadi is at the National Treasury.
Well, let's see if that's going to happen, shouldn't we? Dismas Makua, political analyst, as well as Professor Gitile Naituli as a governance analyst, have been our guest this hour. Last 2 hours, actually.
Yes.
Thanks for being awesome sports and being here this morning in Kenya's biggest conversation. You've occupied the hot seats well. We'll
Thank
talk.
You gave us water too.
Ken, promise the people again tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
I'm working tonight.
See you tomorrow.
I'm working tonight, and I have a guest. I'm hosting Professor Wajakoya tonight.
So see you tomorrow morning.
I'll try.
See you tomorrow morning.
I'll try to wake up.
Good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life.
It's now 10 a.m. Get effective relief from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Relief starts here.
One person has died in an accident in the